This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of what if Naruto became Digimon after 4th Shinobi War. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Rika was occupied with her pencil case while she sat in her classroom. She was able to see her mother through the mirror on the lid, a splash of color in an otherwise boring lineup. Before one of the girls in her class revealed that she was Rika's mother, the other girls were all whispering to one another about who she was. Following their hushed speculation that she must be a model, Reina's phone started ringing. It must have been important, Rika thought as she hurried out the classroom door while the other girls watched. Rika didn't mind leaving because she had to go to work, but occasionally she feels like they expect her mother to be available like a doctor. When the door opened once more, Rika looked in the mirror and saw Reina grinning and joyfully waving at her. She grinned but questioned whether her mother's career would suffer if she stayed. They eventually made it out onto the street to start their walk home after navigating the corridors filled with chattering young girls and their mothers and Reina signing a few autographs. Rika was starting to believe that her mother should have simply left, so she walked a little behind her and avoided looking back when she did. She shouldn't have to give up her hard-earned status for a pointless parents' day at her school. Reina became impatient after a few minutes of silence and said, "What's wrong, Rika? You haven't said a word since we left," she said. "You didn't have to stay for me," Rika said in a whisper, adjusting her gaze to her shoes before answering. "It wouldn't bother me, I understand you have work to do." Reina grinned and gave her daughter a hug. Rika was hesitant at first but gave a kind response, and then they parted ways and went on the walk. "It was a call from a magazine," Reina laughed. "They wanted me to do a shoot for them in an hour. Can you believe that? I told them they would need to call at least a day in advance." Reina grinned broadly as she glanced over her shoulder at her daughter and asked, "What, am I some kind of on-call doctor?" While helping her mother, who was complaining about her ruined clothes, get up off the ground, Rika secretly laughed when Reina, not paying attention to her destination, ran into a parking meter. Rika thought, definitely not a doctor, simultaneously with Kushina. "Hey," Rika said defensively, "I am the only one who can disparage her intelligence." "It was just an observation," Kushina chuckled. "We really are alike. Minato always said that I was a klutz outside of battle." Rika thought cheekily, "I can see you now, jumping into the battle and landing on your own kunai." "I'm not talking to you anymore." Rika halted when a column of digital energy hit the ground a few blocks away and then burst into the fog, indicating a digital field. "Don't be such a," she said. "Cousin," she uttered, "I must." "I know," she laughed, "I'll hurry home and send Naruto after you." Rika said, "Thank you, cousin." After that, they both hurried off to their different tasks. When Naruto descended from a nearby building, Rika was a block away from the bio-emergence. As they both ran through the fog, she nodded quickly to him. After passing through, they were met with an empty section of road before the car directly across the street caught fire. Rika was successfully protected from the flaming debris when Naruto pulled her away from the blast and placed his back to it. "You didn't have to do that," she muttered as she pushed free of his hold, "because I wouldn't have been that close. And risk you getting hurt, Rika-chan," Naruto laughed. "What would I say to your mother?" He's lying. His father pulled the same thing during a training exercise in Bird Country, only he insisted he thought we were under attack. Kushina gasped. Rika, irritated by her partner's sudden overprotectiveness, asked, "Then why'd he did?" "Same reason his father did it," Kushina said in a smug voice. "He wanted to be close to you. Just like his father, he doesn't know how to deal with women he has genuine romantic feelings for. Probably a result of growing up in war, he doesn't want to say it out loud because he is afraid something will take it away." That moment made Rika flush. He couldn't, there's just no way. A huge mass that was larger than any of the others they had encountered started to emerge through the fog as they were having their internal discussion. Naruto first saw the beast as it emerged from the fog. It was a dinosaur. Like Digimon that resembled Guilmon but was larger. Its muscular body was covered in scaly blue skin, and its legs and back featured red lines that resembled tribal designs. It also wore wristbands and a necklace with a tribal appearance. It resembled his mother in a vague way, if his mother turned into a big, frightening lizard when she was upset, with what appeared to be feathers protruding from a mane of fiery red hair. Note to self: never find out. When Rika's D-arc came to life, her conversation with Kushina came to an end, and she said, "He feels the same." She blushed slightly at the discussion it sparked and remarked, "Alaman, armored dinosaur type, its special attack is Dino Burst, must be what caused that little accident earlier." "This is a tough one," Naruto said. "I think we should go with my rookie form right off the bat." Rika nodded, and Naruto was prepared to battle. He sped toward the beast, using his exceptional speed to get beneath it and kick the underside of its jaw with an arching motion. It was like punching solid steel. This thing is armored all right, he said, winced a little as he landed on his hands and flipped out. As Alaman attempted a tail swipe, Naruto leapt back. The beast roared when it failed to hit its target. Naruto grinned and withdrew 2 kunai, saying, "You're a tough one, but let's see you hit when you can't see." With the intention of removing the beast's eyes, he charged at it. Leaping high, he landed on its snout but avoided the stab wound to the eyes. Instead, his kunai struck the creature's skin and broke, making the situation appear much worse than it had. Rika gasped and frantically looked for a flight-based modifier on her deck as Alaman threw Naruto high into the air with its reared head. Similar to this, Naruto was looking for the scroll that contained his ninja wire because without it, flying was practically impossible. They both thought at the same time, if I make it through this I swear I am going to get more organized. Kushina's voice echoed in their brains, I'm holding you both to that. Neither of them arrived in time, as Alaman snapped its jaws shut after looking up and opening them as Naruto fell into its wide, open maw. No, exclaimed Rika, as she collapsed to her knees with cards spread out on the street, it can't be, Naruto. Rika stared straight ahead, her eyes dead to the world as she muttered incredulously, and Alaman turned its attention to her and started to lumber forward step by step, trembling the ground. A burst of red and green blasted it away just as it was about to hit her. Pyrosphere. Terrier Tornado. Terriermon and Guilman stood between Rika and the dinosaur, with Terriermon's big ears spread wide to block her view. The bunny screamed, "Why don't you pick on someone less than half your size?" Guilman charged forward and slashed the beast's face so viciously that it staggered back. When Takato and Henry finally saw Rika through the fog, they hurried over, and Henry knelt down in front of her. He shook her gently and said, "Rika, what's wrong? Where is Naruto?" Rika kept her gaze fixed on the location where Naruto had fallen, saying, "It ate him, he's gone." "No way!" screamed Takato, his fist clenched. Terriermon roared, "You big meanie," storming forward, "I'll teach you to eat my friends, Bunny Blast." "Yeah," a furious Guilman exclaimed, "Naruman isn't made of bread." After the attack struck Alaman in the chest, a pyrosphere detonated, creating a massive dust cloud. In the hopes that what killed their friend and partner would come to an end, the 2 tamers and their Digimon waited for the dust to settle. A cry of Dino Blurst erupted from the smoke, and the assault struck the ground between Terriermon and Guilman, sending them both to opposing sides of the road where they painfully collided with the concrete walls of nearby buildings. "Henry, Terriermon," he gasped. As they hurried to their partner's side, Takato exclaimed, "Are you okay, boy?" After confirming that their Digimon were okay, Takato and Henry took a position in front of Rika as Alaman proceeded toward the still for her. She was sufficiently shaken from her daze by this action. "Why are you defending me? You're going to get yourselves killed." Henry's response, "We are a team, remember, if it weren't for you we'd still be playing a kid's game besides, we can't let you get hurt or Naruto would kill us," was met with a smile from Takato and Henry. "That's just it," Rika argued, "Naruto is gone, and I am finished, useless. Can't you feel it? The connection? Guilman is a part of me. I know he is fine because I can feel his heart beating along with mine," Takato asked, placing a hand to his chest. "Do you really believe that?" "His heart," Rika thought, clutching her D-arc to her chest. "Please return, Naruto, if you're still alive. I need you." Alamon's stomach started to grow as he took the last step in the direction of the tamers. Takato questioned, "What's going on?" In response, Henry said, "I don't know." After gathering her cards, Rika simply grinned and got to her feet, saying, "I think it ate something that didn't agree with it." As if on cue, Alaman roared loudly and then burst into data particles, sending several Narutos flying in all directions before exploding into smoke shortly after. The well-known Naruto emerged from the smoke, saying, "You have no idea how lame it is to be swallowed by 2 types of reptiles. At least I didn't get snake chunks in my hair this time." A very pleased Rika tackled him to the ground as soon as he cleared the smoke. "I thought you were dead." Again, she reprimanded in a strangely joyful tone, tears stinging at the corner of her eyes. "You promised me you wouldn't do that anymore. Can't you win any fight without nearly dying first?" As a man with a pineapple for a head sneezed in heaven, ruining his shogi game, he remarked, "You're not the first one to point that out." "I don't know how I am going to stay sane with you charging off to your death every other second," she said, stepping back a little and staring him in the eyes. "You'll manage, I'm sure," he laughed. "We just have to make the best of the time we have away from battle, live the dream and all that." "Make the best of it," she reminded herself. "You're right," she replied, "which is why we are going to see a movie this weekend." Rika wanted to give it a shot even though she wasn't sure if it would succeed. She knew that the way she phrased it would prevent her from mistaking it for anything other than what it was, but they still spent a lot of time together, strolling through the park and chatting. Should we invite the others too? He asked naively, recalling the Princess Foon movie he and his team had seen as a team bonding experience. He must have been that thick, Rika sighed. No, Naruto, I mean just you and me. Are you sure about this? Naruto asked, swallowing a little and turning away. Yes, she said accusingly, releasing the hug and getting to her feet. Is that a problem? Do you not want to? She asked. He stood up and took her hands, saying, no, with a little shout. I'd love to go with you, really. Good, she smiled. I hate to think of what may have happened to you if you refused. Would it involve a leash? Is that why you got the collar for me? She shouted, idiot, and slapped him on the head. Terriermon made a crucial mistake, saying, Rika and Naruto sitting in a tree kiss whoa. Takato and Henry watched in laughter. Rika snarled, let me at the little furball, while Naruto restrained her. Henry, do something. He chuckled and said, no way, you got yourself into this. Momentai Rika, momentai, she kicked, take this easy you stupid bunny, as Naruto fought to hold her in check. Let's all calm down. Takato insisted, we'll pick up some bread at my family's bakery, and then we can head to the park and work on some card strategy, that is if you'll help us Rika. After Rika calmed down, Naruto let her go, saying, lead the way. We are a team after all. We need to stop by my place though so I can change out of my school clothes. Yeah, said Gilman, let's go. Gilman, I think you are less interested in the team and more in the bread. Henry was chuckling. With cuteness, Gilman said, Team Bread? If we have a team name it is certainly not going to be Team Bread, Rika grumbled. As Naruto put it, I agree, Team Naruto sounds better. Takato chuckled and said, of course you'd think that. From there, the conversation went on to Rika's, where she changed, and then to Takato's, where Gilman was forced to hide in an alleyway until they got back. The wonderful, warm smell of freshly baked bread hit them as soon as they walked into the store. A woman in the back room, wearing a pink full-length apron and short brown hair held up in a cloth on her head, was called by a small bell on the front entrance. Welcome to, oh it's just you Takato. Takato made fun of him by saying, love you too Kasen. Who are your friends? She asked. I've only ever met Kazu, Kenta, and Jerry. Takato quickly said, oh, you're right, I'm sorry. This is Henry, that's Naruto, and the girl is Rika. Nice to meet you all, she said, getting a small bow from Henry and 2 nods from Rika and Naruto. Kasen, do you mind if we grab a few bread rolls? Takato questions, we always have some left over. As 4 teenagers ran past her into the kitchen, the woman considered it for a moment before nodding in agreement. Takato packed some bread into a small bag while Naruto leaned against the wall and munched on a small roll. Henry abruptly called them all over to the small television in the corner, where a news broadcast was starting, as Rika was standing next to him, leaning ever so slightly into his shoulder and picking absently at a sweet roll. It seems in the last few days that people can rest easier in the Shinjuku ward of Tokyo. Over the last 2 days many a crime has been halted in its tracks by a man who calls himself Zoro. Not much is known about him, but police are keeping an eye out. Despite the good he is doing, vigilantly justice is frowned upon. The only known footage of him is seen here as he fights off 2 rival gangs that had been a threat to local civilians. Channel 3 News is offering money to anyone who can supply a photo of Zoro. Our contact information is displayed below. Rika had previously seen the same video of Naruto fending off the gang members, but the woman had mentioned the previous 2 days. Have you been out playing hero again, Naruto? She growled. That was you, Takato exclaimed in shock. Wow, you did a great job helping a lot of people. Yeah, Henry said, I may not approve of violence, but there are some bad people out there. Plus I think I heard that name somewhere before. You guys don't get it, Rika interjected. He is wearing his street clothes as he goes about saving the day. Someone could make a connection. You're right, he needs a secret identity, Takato remarked. She took Naruto's hand in hers and held the D-arc between them. No, she said, he needs to stop putting himself in danger. You have been given a second chance. You don't have to be everyone's hero this time. She thought, you can be selfish if you want, no one expects you to die for them. I know, but when I can't look at someone in need, knowing I can help, and do nothing, he responded. I'm sorry Rika, Kushina sighed, it's in his blood, he is a Kage by birth, and it's a Kage's duty to protect his village. This is his village now, and its people need his protection as well as yours. Rest assured you are his most precious person, but it is for that very reason that you must understand that this is who he is. You're right, Rika sighed. I just wish there was more I could do for you, Naruto. You do plenty, Naruto laughed. You give me strength, Rika, strength to do all I can. I want you to be safe always. This is my second chance, and I want to spend it by your side, as your friend, your partner, and maybe even more. They found themselves with their noses almost touching, their thoughts interrupted by a heavy cough. Well, it's not in a tree, Henry muttered. What got into you two? Takato asked. You just kind of spaced out then. As she moved ever so slightly away from Naruto, Rika flushed and said, we have a special connection, I can hear his thoughts, and he mine. Takato said, so you were talking? Naruto laughed and said, yeah, it can be a little awkward when people are watching. Takato exclaimed, cool, and wondered if he and Guilman could follow suit. By the way, Henry added, I remembered where I heard that name before, you have to see this. After Henry omitted the back door, they all shrugged and started to head down the street in the direction of the city. They dropped the bread and Digimon off at the park and ended up at a little net cafe down the street. A couple of people were drinking coffee on laptops, and a couple of schoolchildren were playing the newest Digimon game. After quickly obtaining a computer pass at the front desk, Henry escorted the others to his designated desk. Naruto asked, what is it we are doing, Gain? Ignoring his question, Henry asked, where did you get the name Zoro? Naruto was a little alarmed because he couldn't simply say, it was my Anbu from in my past life where I was an elite assassin. He lied unconvincingly, saying, I read it in a book somewhere, thought it sounded cool. All right, Henry said, playing a video, take a look at this. They recognized the video as the opening of an anime as it showed a young, blonde man wearing a cummerbund of the same color and a white dress shirt underneath a dark blue vest. He was wearing black gloves and boots, tight fitting pants with a gold buckle, a black Spanish gaucho hat, and a black cloth mask tied tightly around his head. A bulky black cape that hung just behind his calves completed the ensemble. As the video continued, they saw him brandishing a rapier while engaging in combat with a number of clearly military-clad men. He even cut a big Z into one of the men's clothing, which perplexed them. Wasn't he the hero? It featured him dancing with a woman with long blonde hair and a young boy dressed similarly. That was Kaiketsu Zoro, Henry said. It's about this guy named Don Diego de la Vega. He comes back from a long trip to find his homeland is under a military dictatorship. He takes up the identity of Zoro to help defend those who can't defend themselves and liberate his home. Rika saw Naruto's eyes widen as he examined Zoro's picture and a broad smile appear on his face. Rika said sternly, no, but Rika, Chan, lamented Naruto. I said no, and that is final. After an hour, Rika asked, do you guys understand the meaning of the word no, as Naruto, much to the amusement of the other two boys, theatrically spread out his cape. Common Rika. Chan, he laughed, you have to admit it looks good. He looked exactly like the anime character, so Rika had to admit that he really pulled the look off. He looked good because the clothes gave him a mysterious appearance, which, when combined with his natural appearance, was a powerful combination. He looks so cute, Kushina squealed. Take a picture, Rika, I want to remember this moment. Sorry, I don't have a camera. Naruto returned to the dressing room as Kushina pouted, returning with his regular street clothes on and his selection folded neatly. He grinned broadly as they approached the counter, and Rika paid for the clothes with a credit card without trying to dissuade him. They ended up at a posh costume shop on the opposite side of town after spending the entire day looking for a store that carried what they were looking for. It was already getting pretty dark when they returned to their neighborhood, so they made the decision to stop by the park to see how Terriermon and Guilman were doing. Rika, we need to hurry, was said as a stream of data struck the ground close to the park when they were 6 blocks away. Rika swiped a card and said, on it, activate Naruto's battle cloak by digimodifying it. As Naruto's hands formed a cross-shaped seal, Rika leapt onto his back and exclaimed, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. To the dismay of Takato and Henry, 2 more Narutos emerged in a puff of smoke, carrying them up in a firefighter's carry. Takato moaned, hey, what's the big idea? Just bear with it, Takato, Henry said. The sooner we get there the better. It looks like it hid near the park. As Naruto leapt into the air and landed nimbly on the roof next to them, Takato feinted a little and nodded before starting to run across the rooftops to the park. When they arrived at the park, they discovered the digital field directly inside the main walkway. Naruto then allowed the boys to enter the park from the ground up. He dismissed his clones and checked to make sure Rika was holding on, receiving an irritated, yes. A quick kunai swipe was all that prevented him from becoming entangled in a massive spider web as the fog cleared, and he leapt high, aiming his body for the center of the digital field. Guilman was yelled as he led Rika off and landed gracefully on the ground. As the fog lifted, they turned to see Takato holding Guilman's fading body in his arms while he called out to his fallen comrade, tears streaming down his cheeks. Spider webs were all over the place, and between two of the larger trees, there was a huge spider called Digimon, which Rika knew to be Dokugumon. As the Guilman form started to float upward and was encircled by spiraling lengths of red data forming an egg, Naruto noticed a bright glow emanating from Takato's D-Arc. Guilman Digivolve 2, Growlman. With a blast of flaming wind, the egg exploded, revealing a monstrous Digimon that was easily 3 times larger than Guilman's battered form. With a long, mohawk-like mane of white hair, 2 massive horns perched just above his eyes, and blade-like projections from his elbows, he resembled a much bigger Guilman. With a loud roar, he released a huge explosion of flame into the sky. "It's about time," Rika and Naruto muttered together. Takato wiped away his tears and remarked, "You're okay, boy. I knew you'd be alright." The newly evolved Growlman growled, "I think this spider needs to be stepped on, tamer." "You're right," Takato said with a nod, "squash that bug." Growlman screamed, "Dragon Slash," as Dokugumon sent a mass of webbing their way, and his energy-charged arm blades sliced through it cleanly. Pyro Blaster. It must have had at least 3 times the power of Guilman's Pyrosphere, because it burned Dokugumon alive and, after a last scream, the spider collapsed to data. The webs remained after the fog dissipated, demonstrating Dokugumon's strength and the amount of effort required to defeat her. Naruto gave the Dino a rough pat on the nose as they walked amiably to their friends, and Rika simply remarked, "Not bad for an overgrown lizard." At the park, they split up, leaving Takato to make an unsuccessful attempt to Digivolve Growlman. Naruto and Rika strolled alongside each other through their house's gates, pausing at the pond in front of Rika's bedroom. "Well," said Naruto tremblingly, "are you serious about this weekend?" "Don't get too excited," Rika laughed, "it's just a weekend outing, it's not like I asked you to marry me, who knows, I may just grow to like your charmingly idiotic self." Naruto cheekily asked, "Are you sure you haven't already?" "If you keep this up I may just change my mind," she chided, let's cross that bridge when we come to it, okay?" As he made his way to his bedroom down the hall, Naruto replied, "Yeah." As she was about to close the door, he said, "But Rika, just so you know, I am already on the other side, waiting for you." Rika slammed her door and snarled, "Idiot." Naruto's laughter could still be heard echoing down the hallway. "Idiot," Rika said as she undressed and lay down for bed, blushing and smiling slightly as she stared at the ceiling. "No you," Rika snarled, wondering if she would ever sleep soundly again. Ignoring the teacher's lecture on plant reproduction, Rika sighed and gazed out the window. She seemed to be lost in thought as she absently fiddled with her pencil case. "Today's the day me and Naruto have our little outing. I'm still not sure it was a good idea." "You're right," sighed Kushina, "it's a terrific idea." "Of course you would think so," said Rika. "You wanted this from the start." "I didn't make you ask him," said Kushina. "I hear your thoughts, you wanted to go with him on this little date." A heated, "It's not a date," was Rika's response. "Let's go over the facts, shall we?" Rika sighed. "Naruto has feelings for you." "I don't know, I mean he." Kushina chuckled and said, "Check, you have feelings for him." When she said, "Well what I mean is," her cheeks turned a dusty red. Kushina added again, "You asked him to take you to a movie by yourself. Check." "Yes, but..." "Check, now where I come from we call that a date, I don't know about you but..." Rika shouted to herself, "Stop interrupting me. It's not a date, dates are for couples, and we are not a couple. Yet. Why you?" The bell then rang, and Rika quickly left the room, avoiding the other girls who were giggling about their plans for the weekend. This weekend, Rika was going to see a movie with a close friend. Yes, a good friend. When Kushina said, "Whatever helps you sleep at night, Rika-chan," she laughed. All the way home, Rika complained. Would she ever have another private thought? When she arrived at the gate, she saw her mother, who waved with a smile on her face. When her mother arrived to pick her up from school, Rika was delighted to see her, if not a little taken aback. Still a little unaccustomed to such displays of affection, she hurried over to give her a brief embrace. The idea of walking home with her mother was exciting to her until she heard those 7 words, which made her heart sink. "So I hear you have a date." "It's not a date." 2 to 1 says it is. Sitting in his usual spot by the backyard pond, Naruto sighed. He was anxious. Even though Naruto had never gone out with a girl before, he pursued Sakura when she asked him out. He didn't know what he was supposed to do on one. Perhaps he pursued Sakura so intensely because his life was so busy that, even as a young man, there was no time for romance. Even though he knew it would never work out, it attracted attention and made him visible. Initially, it was because he would undoubtedly cause problems with the parents of any girls, followed by the fact that he had a number of S-ranked criminals in his wake, and lastly, the war. Oh, and your love life was definitely hampered by death. Although there was still a threat in this world, it was currently limited to the occasional Digimon appearance. No psychotic madman determined to take over the world, no evil dictator, no invading force. Ninjas were able to find love in such circumstances prior to the war, and he was only fighting to defend his new home. Even though he wasn't completely smitten with Rika, he still cared for her and found happiness in her company despite her stern demeanor. Is that love? To himself, Naruto murmured, "What is love?" while looking out over the pond. To which a voice behind him replied, "That is a tough one." When he saw Rika's grandmother smiling, Naruto calmed down the sudden intrusion, but he was still red with shame over what she had heard. Naruto yelled, "Oba-chan, don't come at me like that." The elderly woman chuckled. "Aren't you supposed to be some kind of ninja? Why is it I was able to sneak up on you?" Naruto turned back to the pond, his blush deepening. "My mind was elsewhere. Otherwise my awesome ninja skills would have allowed me to sense you a mile away." If Naruto were in Sage mode, the statement would be accurate. However, in his training form, he was unable to summon powers beyond those of his academy life. "Something on your mind, Naruto," said the woman. "You looked sad sitting there on that rock wearing such a frown." With a sigh, Naruto kicked the water with his heels while letting his feet hang from his tiny perch. "Rika and I are going to the movies today, just the two of us." She grinned and secretly pulled out the new cell phone her daughter had given her. "But I don't see why you're so down, don't you want to go?" she said. Naruto retorted, "Of course I do. It's just that I have never gone out with a girl before." The elderly woman was shocked to learn that Naruto was a handsome 14-year-old and a beautiful 18-year-old. She then recalled his explanation of his existence in this world, which he had given them the night he brought Rika home and they first saw his older form. She suspected Rika knew more, but she refused to press the issue. He had only told them enough to make his point. She gave him a hug and said, "You poor thing, you were alone through all that." With a sigh, Naruto embraced the hug. "It's okay, Oba-chan. I wasn't alone, I had all my friends, and in the end, all the world standing at my back helping me move forward. It's just like I said, I fought for everything I had, through blood, sweat and tears. I earned the respect of the world itself. Here though, this is something I can't fight. All my strength means nothing. I've never been in this situation before." He may be a man in battle, but he never matured in the way a normal man should, the elderly woman said with a smile. He was still a boy in the ways of love. A boy needed his father to discuss these matters with him. The fact that he hadn't told them anything about the boy's father raised the question of who he was in the first place. She sighed. It appears that his father, like his mother, passed away before he could impart any knowledge of the fairer sex to Naruto. Then she felt something. "You have heard the talk, right?" she coughed. "Naruto?" Naruto asked lightly. "Talk, what talk?" The elderly woman said, "You know, like the birds and the bees." With a slight flush, Naruto stood up straight and said, "Yeah, we covered that when I entered Anbu, I had to take, seduction classes." "Wasn't that something that the female ninja would do?" the elderly woman asked. "Normally yes," Naruto admitted. "But sometimes we would need information from women too, and not all of them swung that way." After nodding, she suddenly realized, "Naruto, have you ever?" "I took the classes, but I only ever ended up on one mission like that, and even then I kept my, innocence intact," said Naruto matter-of-factly. "That's good to hear," she said. "Can't say I know many men versed in seduction that would have trouble on a small date though. Those were just missions, information was the objective," he says. "No though, I really care for Rika. I don't know how deep my feelings for her are, but if this were a mission the objective would be Rika's heart, and seduction would be of no use. She isn't that kind of girl." Mrs. Makino grinned. Naruto certainly was a gentleman for a professional murderer. After glancing out over the water, she grabbed Naruto by the vest collar and pulled him in the direction of the gate. As he attempted to regain his balance, Naruto yelled, "Ah, Oba-chan, what gives? Where are we going?" "We are going shopping. The first step for a new date is to get you something new to wear. 6 sets of identical clothing does not a wardrobe make. I wish someone would show Rika that." Rina sneezed somewhere on the opposite side of town, dropping a couple of pink tops, which Rika immediately kicked across the store. While his legs kicked frantically to get his bearings, Naruto was dragged out the back gate. Gazing at the hem of her new jacket, Rika let out a sigh. Since September was coming to an end and it was getting cold, she couldn't complain. She only owned a long, high-collared, beige jacket, which she admitted she liked the way it flowed in the wind, but it was a rather childish one, and the skull-marked one wasn't appropriate for the occasion. It was also pretty plain, and she had to admit that she preferred this one. It had a white body and turquoise sleeves, just like her typical shirt. Only the elasticated end of the sleeve, which was concealed by the sleeve itself, kept her hands from slipping over the long, slightly sagging sleeves. The jacket zipped up rather nicely, and on the left shoulder was a small purple heart, being just tight enough to flaunt her developing curves and loose enough to permit her to move freely. The material was sufficiently thick to provide a pleasant level of warmth without being too hot. Overall, it was a pleasant, comfortable, and adorable look that contrasted sharply with Rika's typical tomboy appearance without being unduly feminine. On her mother's insistence that she avoid getting cold ankles, seriously, she also got new pants. Sadly, her ankles were starting to feel a little cold, so Rika gave in and bought the new jeans. Although it would seem that she could simply roll down her pants, she actually purchased them rolled up. Even though her new ones were longer than her old ones, they still had what Naruto would refer to as useless belts. After all of her mother's urging, she ultimately just adopted a more modern version of her previous appearance. Her mother told herself that although it wasn't much, it was a beginning. Next, stop skirts. After 2 hours of shopping, they enter their house through the front gate. It was now 5:30 and almost time to go to the movies. Still anxious about what was about to happen, Rika tugged at her sleeves. She didn't want to destroy the relationship she already shared with Naruto, but she wouldn't know if it could have worked if she didn't act on her feelings. She took a deep breath to bolster her resolve. Even if she had to make the blonde knucklehead smile, they were going to have a good time. Rika's mother turned her around just before she got to the door, bending slightly and smiling brightly while staring her in the eyes. As her mother gave her a gentle head rub and swiftly pulled off Rika's hair tie, Rika gave it back. She protested, "Ka-san," as her mother pushed the object down her shirt. She wanted to object, but she refrained from doing so because of the expression in her mother's eyes. Leaning over once more, the older woman gently combed Rika's hair, causing it to move in different directions. She finally let it fall straight, creating a curtain of smooth red hair with hints of lighter orange. Rina, who was crying a little, said, "You look gorgeous, sweetie. You'll knock 'em dead." The compliment made Rika blush a little because she wasn't used to wearing her hair this way and thought it was too girly. She was persuaded to put it on hold for the time being by her mother's tears and smile. She scowled, "Ka-san, don't say that, it's embarrassing." Rina accepted the glare because her daughter didn't try to tangle her hair, which she interpreted as an indication that she was paying attention. Rika was glad to see her daughter look like a girl for once, but she didn't want to force her to give up her rough demeanor completely. If only she could persuade her to apply makeup. Women are capable of dreaming. When Rika heard a faint commotion from the adjacent room, she went into the family room to look for Naruto. A few bangs came from inside as she arrived at the door, and it flew open to reveal her grandmother, who was unkempt and had her hair a little out of style. Rika murmured inquisitively, "Oba-san, what's going on?" "Oh, I am just helping Naruto prepare for your date, we'll be out in a minute." Door slammed. "It's not a date." Rika waited for Naruto to get ready while she sat on the couch. "Isn't this a little backwards?" "Well, you don't really do makeup, and you don't like to wear anything that would require much decision-making." "I have no idea what's taking my son though, maybe your grandmother has him trying on clothes." "Probably," mumbled Rika. "I wonder what he'll look like." "Just as handsome as can be, he is my boy after all. He takes after his father though," Kushina continued. "His dashing good looks, gorgeous eyes, and wild spiky mane that still manages to be soft as silk." "No, I didn't mean, I, Rika sighed, then caught herself saying, "rock hard body." "Rika-chan," said Kushina. "I didn't know you had it in you, so you like my son's body do you?" She objected, saying, "I didn't mean to say that, you made me." The door opened before Kushina could continue to tease her, and Naruto, but a different Naruto, came in. He had on a baby blue jacket with the sleeves rolled up to a quarter of his forearm. The medium height collar shielded his neck from the cold, but during the colder months he would need a scarf. A black fox with pale red eyes was featured on the jacket's front. He had on a short, sleeved black shirt with horizontal stripes in the same drab red underneath the jacket. Rika was oddly pleased to see that his choker was still fastened around his neck and that he was wearing his regular black cargo pants. The main change was that his hair appeared to have been cut. The long wrapped ponytail was no longer there. The spikes were not nearly as tall, and it was noticeably thinner. His hair was still as wild and spiky as ever, with a portion of it still falling past his neck and tickling his back. Any semblance of control was ruined when a few more tame strands were neatly on the sides of his face before they flared back into spikes. Overall, he looked fantastic as he stood motionless, staring at Rika. She tugged at her sleeves unconsciously, looking cute in her jacket that was too big for her. Her deep violet eyes, which were filled with both hope and trepidation, drew his attention. Until a voice echoed in Rika's mind, neither of them wanted to move, terrified to take this next step. "By Kami," Kushina murmured. "He looks just like his father." Rika, give up. You stand no chance against his boyish good looks. Take it from someone who fought valiantly and was defeated, lost forever in his deep blue eyes. There is no defense, only acceptance. Calm the hell down, Rika said. I admit he does look just amazing, but that doesn't mean I am just going to fall head over heels for the guy. You poor deluded fool, shut up. Naruto yelled, Ika, hey Rika, while gesturing with his hand in her face. What? She responded, sorry I was distracted, what was it you were saying? Naruto scratched at his cheek, averting his eyes a little. I was saying, that I like your hair, it looks nice. A slight flush came over Rika as she quickly responded, you too. Grandma Makino and Rina were huddled behind the couch, listening in as Rina suppressed her laughter and the elder Makino sighed, futilely attempting to ignore her. Naruto remarked, the movie starts soon, so we should get moving. Yeah, let's go, said Rika. They didn't see Rina, wearing a trench coat, being pulled back inside by her mother as they were leaving the gate. Knowing that she would be able to see the entire date made Kushina laugh. They both made an effort to keep their distance from one another during the somewhat awkward walk to the theater, but every now and then their hands would touch and they would pull farther apart before drifting back. Rika refused to take his hand despite Kushina's prodding because she thought it would be even more embarrassing if he did. When they arrived, Naruto followed Grandma Makino's instructions. Rika-chan, said he, what would you like to see? As Naruto resisted the temptation to glomp her, Rika assumed a contemplative stance. Her hair dipped over to cover her eye, and she batted at it in frustration, only to have it fall back down as her head tilted and she put a hand on her chin. Rika spent the next few seconds frantically batting at her hair with both hands, leaving Naruto wishing he had a camera. She appeared to have a fly buzzing right on her nose and was unable to get it to leave. Her hair hung limply in her face as Naruto took both of her hands and placed them at her sides. Before removing a long piece of white cloth from his pocket, he reached up and parted her hair. With practiced ease, he drew Rika's hair back and wrapped it in its typical style, securing it with a lovely bow that hung sweetly behind her head. Feeling content with his work, he turned to face Rika and smiled broadly, his eyes gleaming with laughter. I am sure your mother loves your hair like that, Naruto chuckled. But I want you to be yourself, you don't have to wear your hair down for me. I told you, Kushina gasped. Boyish charm, no chance. The worst part is he doesn't know he's doing it. Who said I did it for you idiot, she growled with tinted cheeks. I just wanted to try something new alright. So guess what, I don't like it. Thanks for the rap. Naruto laughed. You're welcome. Anyway, what do you want to see? 30 minutes later, Naruto and Rika were seated in a Jurassic Park the third screening. Naruto was visibly shaken as he sat next to Rika. He had a problem with large reptiles, and the last few he encountered had been successful in eating him. The ones in the film also appeared to be performing well. For the strongest ninja in his world, Naruto could be a big baby, but Rika laughed as he winced as a larger dinosaur devoured one of the humans. She considered it for a moment before deciding to take a chance. She reached over the arm rest and put her hand over his, gripping his knee. He instantly relaxed and turned to face her, a kind grin that was hardly discernible in the theater's darkness. She found it difficult to concentrate on the film as his eyes, which were hauntingly captivating in the dark, caught the light from the screen. The movie's varied light levels caused Naruto's deep violet eyes to dance, and she was in the same situation. Another second later, Naruto flipped his hand over and gently took Rika's in his own, allowing her to reclaim it if she so desired. Instead, she encircled his hand tightly when she was startled by a particularly loud screech from the screen. The remainder of the film was largely silent, with both of them idly grabbing at the popcorn bucket and occasionally remarking on how ridiculous the movie was. As Rika explained that Naruto would have to watch the first two films, which were far superior, they left the theater. They intertwined their fingers, but neither appeared to notice or, if they did not display it. Rika was starting to believe that this was the right choice. The warmth of Naruto's hand in hers was somewhat consoling, and she had never enjoyed watching a movie so much. With his laugh and smile, he simply made everything more cheerful and gave life to everything. Boyish charm, shut up, Naruto chuckled, I can hear you too, you know? The night was growing chilly, and as they trudged home, both of them were grateful for their new jackets. Rika blushed and turned her head away as Naruto laughed. They were standing in the backyard, close to the pond. Naruto was only a few inches above Rika when she looked up at him. "Tonight was fun," Rika said, and their eyes met. Naruto answered, "Yeah, I wouldn't mind going on another date with you." Rika corrected, "It wasn't a date," pointing out to the water. "Dates are for couples, and we aren't a couple." She gasped and turned back to Naruto, who corrected her, "Yet, if you want, I'd like to be." She answered, I don't know, what if it doesn't work out?" With a sigh, Naruto reached for her. "I'll always be your friend Rika-chan." How do you know? How do you know I won't hurt you? You don't deserve that, not after," she said, pulling away from him. Naruto grabbed her arm and responded, "The life I lived before," asking, "Would you deny me my chance in this life?" Rika choked out, "No, it's just that you're my best friend, and I don't want to lose you." As he pulled her into an embrace, Naruto laughed. "You'll never lose me. I am bound to you, remember. I'll always be your friend, your partner." Rika said, "Promise?" as she raised her gaze to his violet eyes. "Promise," was his response. His eyes, his warmth, and the atmosphere created by the pond's crystal clear waters under the stairs enthralled Rika. As Naruto approached her, she leaned in with her eyes half closed. They were so close that she could smell his scent and feel his breath on her lips, and her own heart was pounding quickly beside his like a forest after a rainstorm. They heard the shrill cry, "Rika! Naruto! Wine! Holy crap!" just seconds before they firmly stepped into this new area. Rika stomped over to Takato, clutching the front of his shirt and raising him up on his toes, her face flushed with shame and rage. "What is it, you gogglehead? So help me, it better be important." Meanwhile, Naruto was a little scared of this new, irate Rika and made a mental vow to never offend her again. Takato described what had happened, stating that Guilman had gotten up and vanished, with Henry standing directly behind him, presumably for protection in case Rika's wrath fell upon them. Naruto asked, "Did you check all the local bakeries?" "No," Takato replied, "he didn't get lost, I was right next to him. He just faded bit by bit. It was as if he was being erased by some giant malevolent pencil." While he and Rika waited to hear the entire story, Naruto sighed. Rika told her mother, who was gripping her digital camera tightly and was crying for no apparent reason. After finishing that, they left for wherever Takato had lost Guilman. "All right, guys," Takato said, "he vanished here." "Rika-chan," was a choked cry that stopped them in their tracks. As they turned, they saw Naruto on the ground, gripping his arm, which appeared to be releasing data bursts of static. He let out a cry when he felt another wave of pain. Rika and the others hurried forward and pushed him away until the explosion stopped. Rika put a reassuring arm over Naruto's shoulder as he stood, breathing shakily. He remarked, "That hurt like hell, what could have happened?" Takato asked. "Guilman just kind of faded, it didn't seem painful at all." "It's because I am not fully a Digimon, I am partially human," Naruto said, gasping for air. "You said that before," said Henry. "What does that mean? All the things you do, it can't be human." The two of them were enthralled as Naruto sighed and showed them an edited version of his birth, death, rebirth, and mission. "So you're a ninja with superhuman strength," Takato cried out. "That about sums it up, I am part human part Digimon," said Naruto. "That is," said Henry, "hardly believable, but then again we are currently involved in something that until a few weeks ago was a TV show." They all nodded. They had made wonderful friends and successfully defended their home against the more viscous Digimon, but they still wouldn't have it any other way. They had yet to come across a sane one who didn't want to harm them as they barreled through the city. "It seems to be attempting to remove the Digimon portion. The issue is that it is linked to my chakra pathways," Naruto stated. "My body has adjusted, my chakra follows the data, and I am unable to function without it. I only have enough for my regular bodily functions while I'm training. Take that, and I'll perish." When Rika said, "You'll have to stay here, it's okay, I'll be fine," they all nodded solemnly, realizing the seriousness of the situation. "I know you will be," said Naruto. "After all, you're surrounded by your comrades, and together you won't fail." "We should get going to look for Guilman," said Henry. "We should go towards the maintenance tunnel. Terriermon, you should head back to the park." The bunny said, all right, see you soon, I hope." "Go get Guilman, please," Takato chanted as he marched in the direction of the tunnel. "I'll be right after you guys, just give me a moment." When Naruto looked up, she knelt next to him and said, "I'll be okay, Rika-chan, you need to take care of this, your friends need you." "I understand," she said, averting her gaze a little, It's just what?" asked Naruto. I'll be back, Rika whispered, leaning forward and quickly kissing his cheek. So stay close. Naruto said, a little stunned by the unexpected display of affection. Huh. Rika hurried off with a cheeky smirk and a slight flush, pleased with the response she could so readily elicit from the experienced shinobi. Thinking he could kill time until the others finished their rescue mission, Naruto wandered around the park for a while. He was close to the playground when he saw it, a swift and nimble presence following through the trees. The figure barely made a sound as it flew through the surrounding trees before perching just 12 yards away from him. He kept moving forward as the figure crept along. A female voice said, "It is you," just as he was beginning to grow irritated. Naruto called out to no one, "Pardon," asking, "Who do you think I am?" He saw two deep blue eyes blinking back at him in the shadows of the trees. The figure came out of the shadows a little startlingly. It was a fox, a very humanoid fox. She was tall, almost a head taller than him. She had yellow fur, except along her stomach, and white tipped her long golden tail, as well as her feet and hands, which were both tipped with purple claws. On her kneecaps, there were two purple commas, like markings swirling around each other. She had a fox's head, which was only slightly elongated and narrowed into a triangular muzzle. Her pointed ears stood erect. Beneath her eyes were purple lightning bolt, like purple markings, and on her arms, leading up to her shoulders, were two royal purple cloth bracers with yin, yang symbols. She snarled, "You ruined my opportunity. I was at the door that day, and I almost made it when you arrived. I should be here, not you." Naruto rolled sideways along her shoulder and shoved her from behind, gaining some distance, as she charged and sent a downward swipe in his direction. "You are here," shouted Naruto, "and you appear to be the most composed Digimon I've ever seen. You're attacking me, but why?" With her claws flexed, the fox Digimon gazed down at him and said, "I will destroy you, and when I load your data I will be that girl's partner, as I should have been." Then, in an attempt to deal some quick damage, she launched herself forward with a barrage of swipes, but Naruto's reflexes were far superior to those of a normal human, even at academy level, and he deftly dodged her blows as the vixen wore herself down. She broke off, jumping back as she panted lightly. "That won't work," Naruto said, "because I am Rika's only partner. If you search, I'm sure you'll find someone." After giving this some thought, the vixen threw her arms wide as what appeared to be crystal fragments drifted in front of her before being hurled at Naruto with a shout of "Diamond Storm." Naruto shielded his eyes as the attack struck him directly, kicking up rock and dust. After the dust settled, the Digimon vanished, leaving Naruto to question why she fled. After a long night of Naruto telling her about the encounter and using her cards to find the culprit, Renamon, Rika sighed as she sat on her bed. The rookie-level Digimon had thought that by destroying Naruto, she would be able to become Rika's partner. Rika clenched her fist and said, "Yeah right, I'd delete her. That's my girl." For once, Rika didn't mind the remark. After a long night, they were able to retrieve the dinosaur and discovered that their D-Arcs were capable of some crazy things. Rika decided to try and figure out the secrets of the strange device. It might be helpful. She sat on the floor next to Naruto, looking over her cards and trying a few as she fiddled with her D-Arc. They had only discovered a clock and a compass so far, but Rika was starting to grasp the interface. After a few minutes, the D-Arc lit up a dazzling blue, and she struggled to figure out what she had done. She had just clicked the security function, and she pressed the center button, almost dropping it when a long string of blue data shot forth, wrapping around Naruto's arm. "What is this object?" Rika asked. Naruto uttered, "Rika, I am immobile." Rika gazed down at the stream of data that was attached to Naruto. It was long and wrapped around him like a whip in those adventure films. She applied an experimental tug, and to her surprise, Naruto was jerked into her with relative ease. Her D-Arc was thrown away from her as she found herself straddled by Naruto, and his hair fell into her face, tickling her nose, until he looked up. Their eyes met again, and the emotions from the pond came roaring back. Naruto leaned forward to make that last connection. "Oh my," a charming voice said from the door, "I should set up an additional room for all of my grandchildren. I had no idea you already had that kind of relationship." Naruto collapsed on the ground as Rika's red face exploded forward. "Ka-san, it's not what you think, he fell, relax." She said, "I believe you, Rika," in a voice that suggested she most definitely didn't. "Don't do anything that I wouldn't." Rika ran after her mother, shouting that he had just fallen and that she was unable to begin naming the kids. From his spot on the ground, Naruto simply laughed and said, "Things just got interesting." The afternoon after their date, Naruto and Rika were feeling a little uncomfortable. They were certain that their friendship had gone too far, but neither of them wanted to approach. They sat outside on the porch, side by side, but still a good few inches apart, while Rika was absently using her data whip, as they had decided to call it. With each swing, Naruto cringed inwardly, and they discovered that it took all of his energy to work. When it was used against him, it connected, taking all of his power and holding it in the D-arc, leaving him with a weak body that was easily manipulated. They assumed it was intended to be used if the tamer had a very aggressive or unruly Digimon. When they tested it on a tree, it left a nice, sized gash in the bark, and Rika discovered she could use it to wrap around the branch and swing. Since then, she had discovered other uses for it. It appeared to respond to her will, switching between wrapping and whipping. She remarked, "This thing fits your whole Zoro persona," while flicking it. "Really now?" Naruto chuckled. "Maybe we can get you an outfit too, then you can be my sidekick, Vixen." "Sidekick," Rika snarled. "As if I were yours. I wouldn't even put it on in the first place." "Oh come on," Naruto teasingly said, "as many belts as you like, black leather." "They aren't necessary, and I told you I didn't want any more belts." "Oh yeah," Naruto murmured, "because your pants are in danger of falling off at the thigh." She sighed, "You dunce." Rika continued to crack the data whip every few seconds as they stared out over the water, but eventually she grew tired of the awkward feeling and the silence, so she pushed off the porch and headed toward the gate with a crack of her whip. "Come on, we're going to the park. You made that decision by yourself, didn't you?" Naruto remarked while leaning back and supporting his weight on his arms. "Yeah," she says, cracking the whip, "either you go or I make you." With a gulp, Naruto said, "Yes ma'am." Rika had hoped that a change of scenery would help, but instead they were feeling very uncomfortable in a park, and she wasn't sure if that was a good thing. Naruto was looking absently up at the sunlight filtering through the trees, and both of them were wearing their new sweaters because the air was a little chilly. They had been on an emotional high the night before, and everything was going smoothly. The atmosphere was wonderful, the date went perfectly, but the end went horribly wrong. Both of them were interrupted twice, and neither of them knew how to acknowledge their altered circumstances. After another good half hour, Rika had had enough and let out an exasperated sigh. She said, "I don't know what to do." "What are you saying?" Naruto inquired. "I mean," she sighed, "about us, after last night, where are we now?" Shyly, Naruto said, "I don't know, I've never done this before." Naruto sat down next to Rika as she sat down on a nearby bench. "Me neither," she began. After a while, Naruto put an arm around her shoulder and pulled her a little closer, causing her to tense at first before letting her head rest on his shoulder as they both fell silent once more, listening to the sounds of the birds in the trees and the occasional onlooker. "I guess, we don't have to do anything, Rika-chan. I enjoy spending time with you." "Pink," Rika said, "Me too, Naruto, are we now a couple?" "I guess, but couples do, you know, couple things." "Oh, like?" he asked. "Like," she murmured, "going on dates, and holding hands, and kissing." As his cheeks began to flush, Naruto chuckled softly and looked away. "So, would you like to?" he inquired. "What, carry out those actions?" He nodded, saying, "Haven't we already?" After giving it some thought, Naruto concluded that they had. "All but one," Rika continued, gazing up at him from where she was perched on his shoulder. Naruto's gaze flitted across the trees, scouting the tree line in different directions. "You're doing what?" Confused, Rika asked. He grinned down at her and said, "Making sure that Takato and your mother are not nearby." "Why?" With a slight tilt of her head, she asked. Naruto laughed and said, "'Cause I think I want to kiss you, because she looked adorable in that pose." "You do, so who says I'll let you?" Rika said, blushing a little. Taking her chin in his hand and tilting her head upward, Naruto laughed once more and said, "I won't take no for an answer." Rika said, "Idiot." When Naruto felt a sharp pain in his neck, he moved to close the distance as she leaned forward with her eyes half closed. As he removed what appeared to be a tiny dart from his neck, he exclaimed, "The hell?" A dozen men in black suits burst from the surrounding trees, and Naruto cursed himself for being so engrossed in the moment that he had forgotten his surroundings. He tried to move, but he was weak and sluggish, so he lost all balance and fell to the ground as the men passed him. To his horror, he was not the target, and they surrounded Rika, who fought hard against them, slapping them in the face with the data whip, but it was all for nothing as she was swiftly subdued, cuffed, and had duct tape placed over her mouth. "Let her go, you jerks," as one rough, shouldered her, Naruto screamed. He heard a high clacking sound at that moment, and using all of his remaining strength, he rolled over to find Mitsuo Yamaki grinning. "Yamaki," he snarled, "I don't fret in empty air." As Naruto's vision started to fail, Yamaki laughed and said, "I gave you a choice, now we have to do this the hard way. After throwing a business card at the boy's feet and starting to leave, Naruto cursed Yamaki, himself, and whatever god was responsible for making his life so hard. Give us a call when you are ready to talk business, until then we will take good care of Rika. Naruto cursed the man who had just had the audacity to take his precious person one final time as the world's light dimmed, saying, Yamaki. A young woman with red hair wearing a white suit said, Yamaki, I don't feel right about this, you can't seriously be thinking of hurting the girl. Riley, Yamaki replied, some sacrifices must be made for the greater good. You mean capturing a young girl from the park in order to manipulate a boy who is stronger than you want him to be? Riley shouted. Yamaki snarled, just do your job, Riley, this isn't your place. A black van pulled up, and Rika was put in the back, struggling against her binds and shouting muffled profanities the entire way. Riley looked truly hurt, her eyes stinging from tears, and she nodded curtly before making her way to the park exit in the waiting car. I think he's coming too. He was a little unsteady at first, but he was quickly regaining his balance. Naruto moaned as he felt himself returning to reality. His vision was coming in blurry flashes, with infrequent moments of clarity. Finally, he was able to see the shapes of Takato and Henry, who both had Terriermon on his shoulder. He reached up as they took his arms and helped him stand up, noting with contempt that it was getting close to sunset and that he had been out for a long time. Takato said, what happened, man? Where is Rika? Rika, snarled Naruto, the bastards took her. Who abducted her? Henry inquired. The boys were taken aback when Naruto calmed down and explained what had happened a few days earlier, but Henry was surprisingly upset with Naruto. You didn't think that perhaps we ought to be aware of this? There is a group out there trying to get rid of Digimon, and we are just now learning about it, he stated. Henry was right. They ought to have known, and Naruto winced, regretting not telling them. I felt that my initial threat would have sufficed, he murmured. Takato remarked, not a man like that, saying, the way you characterized him makes me think of this businessman who attempted to acquire my parents' store. Before he was caught releasing rats into our basement, he was so persistent that he almost drove us out of business. He nodded. People like that don't know their limits, what he's doing is wrong, we should call the authorities. Pulling a kunai from his jacket, Naruto said, no, I told that man what would happen if he threatened Rika. As he held his kunai, Naruto's eyes glowed with anger. His stifling aura subtly conveyed a hint of murderous intent. You can't be serious, Henry said. I thought this was your second chance. Are you just going to end up killing people again? It was too much for that bastard, Naruto shouted. I have to save Rika, and he needs to learn a lesson. That's something you can do without killing, Henry exclaimed, remarkably calm despite Naruto's obvious intent to kill. We can save Rika without killing. You don't need any more sin to burden your spirit. In his world, being a shinobi was an honorable station in the eyes of your village, and it was commonplace for people to die over petty matters like honor. In this world, he would be a murderer plain and simple, even if it was for the right reasons. Killing was wrong because it tarnished the soul if done for the wrong reason, and Naruto didn't want to kill in anger. He mentally chastised himself for almost making such a mistake, and he couldn't just kill someone. Thank you, Naruto said. I had completely lost myself for a moment. Henry handed Naruto a card and said, it's okay, we found this on the ground over there. Naruto examined the card. It was a plain white business card with the words, Hypnose, written in plain script, a phone number, and Yamaki's fatal mistake, an address on the back. Takato said, we'll accompany you, together, we can save her. Naruto nodded. This requires a special touch. I believe it is time that Anbu Kapitan Zoro made a comeback. Anbu? Henry asked. In my past life I was a member of my village's special forces, the Ansatsu Senjutsu Tokushu Butai, said Naruto. I was an assassin, an expert in torture and killing. Naruto quickly went on after noticing the two boys' shocked expressions. I was the village's top hyperactive knucklehead ninja before that, though, and I love pulling practical jokes. Hypnose will be sorry they did this. Is there anything we can do to assist? Takato inquired. Yeah, Naruto replied, help me find a gag shop, the crueler the joke the better. Takato gave him a devilish smile, which was out of character for the usually innocent and upbeat boy, and he laughed as he gestured for them to follow him. Naruto gave Henry one final speech before they left the park. He said, Yamaki will pay, but I won't kill him. He sighed as he followed Takato down the path, saying, I knew you would say something like that. Looking over his shoulder, Henry gave Naruto a smile that he thought matched his old friend's size face the best. Give him a swift kick to the junk from me, said the kid, no one messes with my friends. As they left the park, Naruto chuckled to himself. These kids had a dark side. He let out a deep sigh and turned to face the fading sun. We are all bound by the same rules, they won't hurt her. He was thinking, hold on Rika, I'm coming for you. The city was too vibrant to ever be completely dark, but the shadows that were always present in the alleyways looked especially ominous on this cloudy night. It was in these shadowy places that one might encounter the most shady of characters, and here we find three young men planning the destruction of the people in the building next to their small alleyway. Leaning against the wall with Terriermon on his head, Henry said, we have no idea where they're holding her. From his perch atop Guilliman, Takato nodded in agreement, saying, it's a big building, not to mention it probably has a lot of underground space. I'll find her, Naruto said. We share a bond unlike yours with your partners, I can feel her. He turned back to the other two in the alley and glanced at the building with a determined expression on his whiskered face. He had broken into the Hokage Tower using only a kunai and some ninja wire, so this would be easy. Are you prepared to try my request? Naruto uttered those words. I am not sure it will work, but I guess it would be best that you are ready for any eventuality, Henry replied. Yeah, Takato continued. Are you ready, Guilliman? I don't want you to get shot or anything. Will it be painful? The juvenile dinosaur inquired. Experienced Naruto replied, no, but he did speculate that you would be hungry afterward. Let's get started right away, Terriermon spoke in his typically vivacious tone. As they both started to glow, Naruto put a hand on them. Data started to flicker around their forms before it started to seep up towards Naruto. With the usual flare and wind, Naruto was ready for action, standing in his battle cloak, inspecting himself, then reaching for a scroll and applying blood quickly, which made the other two flinch as he bit his thumb. A black-wrapped bundle was now sitting in his arms. Digimon and Gummimon, the training forms of Guilliman and Terriermon, respectively, were both holding a small creature in their hands. Takato's appeared to be a small ref ball with a black tail and dragon wing ears, while Henry's appeared to be a small ghost-like creature. It was white with a large head and a single horn, and it stood on a white body that fanned out like a sheet. Naruto used the time they spent examining their partners to slip away down the alley and around a corner. He opened his newly unsealed bundle and let a gentle smile spread across his face as he examined the porcelain mask that rested on top of the bundle of clothes. It featured 3 red whisker marks on each cheek, pointed fox-like ears at the top, and a red-fanged smile where his mouth would be, all perched on a slightly elongated foxy muzzle. When he returned around the corner, he saw a bewildered Takato and Henry looking about the alley, and he cleared his throat to get their attention. He nodded to himself as he checked the other items in the bundle and saw that they were adjusted to his current size. He quickly threw away his current clothes and changed, leaving the mask to be put on later and keeping his belt of scrolls. He couldn't help but smirk at the expressions of awe on their faces. With his mask at his hip, Naruto wore his full Anbu outfit, which included a white chest armor that resembled a tank top and was heavily reinforced with lightweight but durable cloth and a layer of seal-enhanced chainmail. He was wearing black shinobi pants that were wrapped at the bottom and tucked into a pair of black boots, a gray kunai pouch on his thigh, his scroll belt still in its usual position, standard issue Anbu bracers and black gloves that reached his shoulders, and a spiral tattoo on his left shoulder, which was a proud display of his status as an Anbu member. The look was so awesome that Takato was beaming. You look like a real ninja now. Yeah, said Henry, kinda a mix between the traditional and modern, but it feels like it's missing something. Naruto thought out loud, missing something, and then snapped his fingers. In a puff of smoke, he drew another scroll from his belt and applied blood and chakra to the seal there. He held in his hand a strangely circular sheath that appeared to be a small dagger, attached to a harness that appeared to go on the back. Naruto put it on and it was discovered to cross over his chest and back, with the blade and sheath resting on the small of his back. When he drew it, it left a trail of white light in its path, like a curved moonlight. Naruto held it in front of him, and it appeared to be a very small katana. The blade was single-edged and lacked a crossguard, while the handle was a very simple black. The blade, however, was gleaming silver, reflecting even the dim moonlight behind the cloudy night sky. It's gorgeous, Henry remarked. A gift, from my father, Naruto nodded. Flashback. The sounds of battle surrounded Naruto as he knelt by a small cot in a medic tent, but his attention was fixed on the person in front of him. His sensei was dying after taking a fatal blow to the chest with a lightning jutsu, and Sakura was doing everything she could to keep him alive long enough to say goodbye. The man coughed, his face suddenly uncovered. I had always hoped my students would never see war. Sakura kept her hand as steady as she could over his injured chest, fighting to keep him alive through her tears, while Naruto held the older man's hand tightly, not wanting to lose the person who was like a father to him. The situation took away the excitement of finally seeing their sensei's face. "I'm sorry, I wish there was more I could have done," Kakashi responded. "For you, for Sasuke." Sakura and Naruto nodded. Their teammate had died a hero's death, facing Madara head on long enough to identify a weakness, and with his final breath, invoking forgiveness, which he received. "Sakura," Kakashi remarked, "you've come a long way from that little fangirl on the academy roof to a stunning young lady and an unmatched kunoichi. Even though I didn't teach you much, it was still an honor and a privilege to do so." Sakura kissed his bleeding cheek and remarked, "You taught me the most important lesson of all, sensei," adding, "I'll never forget you." He turned to Naruto, his eyes unfocused as his body fought a losing battle, and he saw the image of his sensei, placing a hand on his son's shoulder and mouthing, "Go on." Kakashi gave her his trademark eye smile against the pain, even though the tears were still in his eyes, but they were not tears of pain. As the boy looked up, two sets of teary eyes met. Kakashi continued, "Naruto, you have changed so much from the little boy I knew. Jiraiya, Minato, Sensei, and I are all behind you. Not adopting you from the orphanage all those years ago is the one thing I regret most in life." As Naruto gazed into his dying sensei's tear-stained eyes, his breath caught in his throat. Kakashi choked. "Any father would have been proud to call you son. You would have grown into a wonderful man, Naruto. My father gave me this last gift, and his father gave it to him. I broke it, but it has since been reforged." Taking Naruto's hand and placing the scroll there, forcing it closed and holding it tight, Kakashi grinned. He sat up, ignoring Sakura's protest as the girl chose to hug her sensei close to her chest while sitting behind him, crying into his back. Kakashi's mangled form forced him to reach across the cot to his pouch on the ground, holding a scroll in his hand. "I want you to have it," he declared. "You are the closest I will ever come to having a son of my own." As the sounds of battle grew louder, Naruto nodded through his tears and looked into his sensei's face. A man he had always aspired to be, someone he had once believed was untouchable, who was dying right in front of him. Taking the scroll in his hand, he stood up while Kakashi gazed up at him, grinning again through his tears while holding the scroll to his chest. "I'll take care of it," he replied, "and one day, I'll give it to my son, 2.San." Kakashi the copy ninja closed his eyes for the final time, knowing that his son would carry his strength and the strength of everyone who inherited the will of fire. He first wore a shocked expression before his face broke into a relaxed smile as he sank back into the cot with Sakura holding his hand. Flashback end. After returning the blade to its sheath, Naruto left another white trail behind. "The Hako Chakura too," said Naruto. "It is a famous blade in my world, though its fame was not earned by me. That however is a story for another time." Anbu masks had special seals that made them akin to a two-way mirror. He could see through it like it was nothing, while others could only see his eyes. The effect was intimidating. He looked ready for battle, and Henry realized now that he wasn't kidding when he said he was an assassin. Takato gave Naruto a gray shoulder bag, which he examined before smiling. He knew his stuff, even remembering the orange spray paint, and he placed it over his shoulder, being careful not to obstruct his ability to draw his blade. After closing his eyes and concentrating, Naruto felt Rika close by because of their connection. All he had to do was locate her in the building. After a moment, he sensed her presence, a steady pounding beside his heart. "She is below," he said. "You were right, Takato, it seems they have some sort of basement facility." "How will you approach her?" Takato inquired. "Easy," he said, grinning viciously from behind. "I'm going to work my way down." Naruto laughed to himself as he descended the elevator shaft that led to the basement level. He had forgotten the greatness of a well-executed prank. The joys of youth had faded with his shinobi career, but now he could let loose. The people of Hypnos were going to be rudely awakened when they all came to work tomorrow. He shook himself of his humor as he focused on the task at hand. He found an opening and looked down a good 2 stories into what appeared to be a large lab of some kind, with a few men in white lab coats scurrying around checking monitors and shouting numbers. In the center of it all stood Yamaki, his ever-present lighter clicking away in his hand. "What is this location?" A solemn female voice said. "Please let me out, I don't want to return." Naruto noticed that the room was large, with a large hole at the bottom that was glowing a faint gold and appeared to be the source of the yelling. It appeared to be a lizard, similar to Digimon, and it was suspended in some way. On top of that was a large catwalk that was filled with running cables and machines, and there were many lab personnel running around. "Sir," one replied, "we are ready to initiate a data scan, but the creature may not survive." Gazing down at the creature, Yamaki sneered, "You say that as if I should care. It's not like that thing down there is flesh and blood, you know. Pardon me, sir, the man stumbled. It's a living thing, it has a body. Yamaki snarled. This thing is nothing more than packets of data, zeros and ones. A worm is more of a life form. Although their appearance in our world is a coincidence, our monstrous friend has a purpose. We can learn how Digimon are made and how they can be destroyed by examining its data. Go ahead and scan. I want complete power. He turned a dial and said solemnly, yes sir. No, a recognizable voice yelled, you'll kill it. You're not just a data creep. Rika was shackled to a side rail and fighting her binds when Naruto turned to see her. She had a fierce, powerful look in her eyes that made her look beautiful, and he couldn't help but be amazed at the girl she had become. He watched as the lights below turned red and the Digimon in the tunnel let out a painful cry. Oh no, no, please let me leave, it screamed. One of the scientists said, its particles are dissipating. Don't stop until we have all of its data, we are just steps away from our ultimate goal, replied Yamaki. You can't just remove its data in that way. You're killing it. Stop, Rika shouted. I can do just as I please, Yamaki replied. This filth is infecting our world, and we can't have these things wandering about free. A deep, agonized cry, a cry of death, pierced the conversation. As the red glow subsided, one of the scientists said, it's gone. The body has vanished, but the data hasn't. Rika and Naruto grinned at that. Even if they destroyed their bodies, they would still survive like the others. Do I need to save the data? The man inquired. I don't see the point, Yamaki replied. We got all the information we needed from the scanning procedure, eliminate anything that's left. Mister? Shocked, the man asked. That's not possible, Rika shouted, grabbing Yamaki's and the scientist's attention. You'll kill it if you get rid of that data. As he dug into his pocket, Yamaki sarcastically remarked, that's just what I want. Yamaki caught it, noting the girl's longing gaze, and he chuckled darkly. It was Rika's D-Arc. He twirled it around on his finger idly before throwing it into the air, and Rika watched in terror, knowing what the device represented. We'll take this little trinket apart piece by piece. Maybe it can show us how to get rid of these pests. Yamaki simply laughed before saying to the scientist, what are you waiting for? He was threatening the very heart of her best friend, the boy she cared for, and Rika growled, her eyes glimmering with rage. Proceed with it. A kunai struck the machine as he was about to continue, and the man fell back in shock. Meanwhile, another kunai cut the chain of the cuffs that held Rika. The newly freed girl went straight for the shocked Yamaki, rearing a leg back and nailing him in the jewels. He folded in on himself as she grabbed her D-Arc and gave him a quick kick to the ribs just for good measure. It's for Henry, an amused voice from the shadows laughed. The scientists were running away from the dangerous-looking man when Naruto dropped in from the ceiling, startling them. As the brains scrambled out, the bronze stepped in, and many suited men with guns came in again, trained on Naruto. He took a deep breath, and they opened fire, but he was already moving, landing on the first man's shoulders and using him as a springboard while also cutting the muzzle of his gun. The men were at a loss for what to do as Naruto flashed from one spot to the next, his silvery white streaks still hanging in the air like some kind of deadly neon light show. Rika watched in awe of the elegance with which he punished his adversaries, grateful that no one was being killed, but awestruck by the beauty of his ability to do so. It was like a dance, a dazzling dance of death, so dangerous and unrestrained. He looked so strong, he looked so hot. My child created Anbu, Kushina added, watching him go makes me very proud. As soon as the guards lost their weapons, he watched the red particles of date float away into the ceiling, disappearing, and he turned his attention to Yamaki, his eyes set glacial blue as he advanced on the man who was still on his knees. Naruto sighed. These people were weak. Apparently, they lacked the testicular fortitude to fight without them. Do you like the memento I previously gave you? Pointing to the scar beneath the man's chin, he said, resting his blade there. I told you that if you harmed Rika your blood would spill, did I not, Yamaki? Yamaki swallowed, thinking that this boy had sent out multiple armed guards and now had his life in his hands. He had made a serious mistake by taking Rika, but was it too late to save his life? He reflected on how he had treated Riley earlier that day, and she was correct. He only wished he could apologize to her. Rika said, Naruto, you're not going to murder him, are you? He lifted Yamaki's spirit and said, of course not. He felt the blade taken from his neck and opened his mouth to say something, but a fist struck his face. You made a grave mistake, Naruto said. There are consequences for that, so hopefully you'll learn your lesson this time. These beings you despise are more than just statistics. They have lives and their own worlds. It is not your place to completely destroy them as you intend to, regardless of why they come here. They are reborn in their world after their bodies vanish. ideally as better humans than they were before. He slammed his fist into the man's stomach, sending his shades to the ground as he doubled over in agony, then swept his legs until he was sprawled on the floor, then dropped his heel to his injured stomach. "They come here for something," Naruto said, "and you destroy one of the first that even hint at their purpose. You are needlessly cruel to someone who wants to eradicate Digimon from the worlds and choose your own self. Serving power trips over easily accessible alternatives." As he lay there completely broken, Yamaki spat blood out of his mouth, but then he heard someone speaking from the elevator door. "Yamaki." Riley ran to his fallen form and yelled. His voice trailed off, "I'm okay, Riley." Riley was about to reprimand Naruto when Yamaki repeated, "You are just a naive child. I know what must be done. I will rid the world of this filth." Naruto laughed. "Rika, we need to leave. I've no time to waste on a pretentious man such as this." As he leapt up, drew his blade, and cut a hole in the elevator shaft before coming out through it, Rika nodded and jumped on his back. As they flew up the elevator shaft, Rika clung to him shamelessly, cuddling into his back, glad to be back with him after the entire ordeal. After leaving the building, Naruto crossed the rooftops and waved to Takato and Henry, who waved back joyfully, knowing that Rika was safe. He would tell them everything that had happened later, but for now, it was almost midnight, which meant curfew, which meant he had to get Rika home or explain why she had been kidnapped. He sighed as they returned, relieved to see Rika again. As soon as they landed in the backyard once more, Naruto put her down and he was ensnared in a tight hug. He sighed joyfully once more, savoring the warmth of her embrace and wishing he could hold on to it forever. Her touch sparked an emotion he had never experienced before, or perhaps had never had time to. Rika sighed as she felt his powerful arms envelop her. She had always believed that she only needed herself, but Naruto's arrival made her want to be close to him. He revealed a side of herself that she had never known existed, a side that looked to him for support and protection when things got tough. She knew deep down that he would come for her, and when he did, she was ecstatic. The way he battled, the elegance with which he defeated Yamaki's thugs, all to save her, made her feel so loved. As she ran a hand across his cheek, she slid his mask to the side, blushing at the gentle smile he sent her. Naruto took her hand in his nuzzling, enjoying her warmth on his face with his other hand still held tight at her waist. She, on the other hand, was enjoying the contrast between the roughness and smoothness of his skin and whiskers. She smiled at him, her violet eyes shining as Naruto struggled to catch his taken breath. He swallowed a little as he drew her closer, feeling their bodies blend together, her filling a space by his side that he didn't realize was empty, and he put her hand aside, taking her chin lightly, before leaning in, not letting this opportunity pass like the others had, and he kissed her, her lips soft and seductive, as she started to return the kiss by putting her arms around his neck. It might have taken seconds, hours, or days, but they finally parted, their eyes meeting half-lidded in the aftermath of their first kiss. "That was nice," Rika sighed. "Yeah," said Naruto, "nice." Naruto grinned as he led her to her room, and before she left, she gave him a final hug. When she turned to go, Naruto grabbed her arm and twisted her around, and before she knew it, his lips had met hers again for a brief, chaste kiss that still made her heart skip a beat. They stood there in each other's arms for a long time, eyes locked, neither wanting to leave the other's side. Rika yawned, expressing her exhaustion. He muttered, "Good night, Rika-chan." Her response was, "Good night, Naruto-kun." As Naruto made his way to his room with a satisfied grin, Rika entered her bedroom, flushed, and collapsed into her bed with a radiant smile and a hint of blush. She could honestly say she was falling for her best friend. Kushina sighed, "Boyish charm." Rika smiled and said, "Tell me about it." As he entered the tiny stairway that led to the Hypnose building's main entrance, Mitsuo Yamaki uncontrollably winced. His previous night's wounds were still sore. He snarled, fighting the impulse to massage his sore ribs and stomach. It was a child with a strange power, but a child nonetheless, who had beaten him. But when he was only a few steps away from executing his grand scheme, that no longer mattered. The world's digital infestation would be eradicated by the Juggernaut program. Ignoring the pain it caused, he laughed to himself, his melancholy thoughts doing a great deal to cheer him up. When he arrived at the tinted double doors, he adjusted his glasses in the slight reflection it provided and straightened his suit. No one would question his choice of eyewear, and no one would notice the black eye he wore, so he was never more appreciative. He grinned as he stepped through the automated doors that led to the Hypnose building's first floor. Welcoming him to total chaos. The main front desk and clean, organized foyer had been transformed into a madhouse. At her desk, his receptionist was unconscious, her face covered in orange paint. The least of his concerns was that He recognized the three rather large men as being part of the first-floor security detail. As the men writhed on the ground in their boxers, Yamaki could honestly say he had never wanted to see this many of them. As they kept scratching and clawing at their own flesh, their backs and chests were a furious, irritated red. Yamaki yelled, "What is going on here?" One guard was distracted long enough to yell, "Help!" With a growl, Yamaki strode to the elevator, hoping to get to his office and receive a response to his query. When the "up" button was pressed, the doors opened, revealing a six-story drop. Before him, tauntingly, the thick elevator cable swung in the chasm. Yamaki didn't find it funny. Even though it was a long walk, he made a beeline for the stairs because he was desperate for answers. He had no idea that his journey would only raise more and more queries. Sitting on a big tree branch in the park, Naruto let out a sigh. He couldn't blame Rika for sleeping in because she had been through a lot. He decided to let her rest and explore the city during the day. However, plans rarely work out as planned, and Naruto had to wear his Zoro mask and cape to stop a robbery once more. 4 hours have passed since then, and he has prevented 3 muggings, prevented 2 purse snatches, and deterred 3 alleged perverts. All in a day's labor for the typical hero. He had just finished his break and was about to stand up when he was hit by a tiny ball of fire. Bada. Boom, hot enough for ya, a tiny, mischievous figure on the nearby branch yelled. "I'm sorry," Naruto smirked, "was that meant to hurt? Seems to me like you need some training." The little Digimon exclaimed, "Yeah, well, it seems to me, Dad, you need a new set of clothes," shocked that this one hadn't run. "Halloween ain't for another month, loser." "I'll have you know this is the costume of a highly respected hero, you imp," replied Naruto. "It's Impmon," he cried, "and where is this highly respected hero? I need to tell him some idiot stole his suit. Get over here and say that to my face, you little imp." "Impmon? And why should I waste my time and power on a weak little human like you?" the Digimon screamed. Naruto curtly said, "Part human." "Say what?" He explained, "I'm only part human, another part of me is Digimon." Impmon appeared stunned for a second before he collapsed with laughter. The small imp clutched his stomach and almost fell off the branch. "You expect me to believe you are part Digimon? What was your mother, a Gataman or something with those whiskers you got?" Impmon chuckled. "I find myself curious of how that came about myself." When Naruto looked up, the Renamon from earlier was sitting on a tall branch, her deep blue eyes fixed on him. Impmon asked, "What do you mean, Toots? This whack job isn't part Digimon." Renamon grinned. "I would be inclined to think the same, however he has a tamer so he can be entirely human." Naruto asked, "So you have accepted that Rika won't be your tamer?" A flying kick to the face was his response. "I will load your data and take what is mine." Renamon yelled, "If you are a Digimon you can be destroyed," as Naruto ducked her blow and leapt to the ground. "You show I am Toots teach him not to trample the name of Digimon," laughed Impmon. Stuck in his training form, Naruto assumed a loose defensive stance, knowing that he would have to use his innate talent to prevail. With one arm bared and returned prepared to attack, Renamon flew out of the tree's teeth and claws. Naruto let the force of her blow carry them back as he slid to the left, clutching her arm as she sent her claw forward. As they came out of their roll, he kicked and planted both feet firmly in her stomach. Renamon yelled as she struck a tree behind her, but she quickly got up and rushed forward, kicking Naruto in the face with a high kick that was deflected by a forearm. Renamon grinned as she kicked her opposing leg and landed a hard blow to Naruto's chin while falling back into a handstand. After being launched into the air in a low arching flight, Naruto landed on his hands and flipped into a defensive stance. Renamon exclaimed, "Diamond Storm," after leaping high into position for her special attack. Before planting his feet and charging at the fox. Like Digimon as she hit the ground, Naruto rolled sideways to dodge the flying crystals. Renamon swore when she realized that she had misjudged her opponent's speed and that, at the rate she was falling, he would meet her as she landed, severely hurting her chances. She was taken aback, though, when her opponent stopped short. Until she looked up at the sky, that is. As though a raging fire loomed just beyond them, the once calm late afternoon sky was now clouded and glowing in angry orange and red hues. As they absorbed the bizarre scene in front of them, everyone fell silent. An ear-piercing shriek then broke the silence. "No, I don't want to go. Stop, no, no." Digimon of all sizes and shapes were being raised into the air all around them in the direction of a huge red hole in the sky. It roared with furry sucking in every Digimon that was brought to its gaping maw, emitting sparks of static. For a brief moment, Naruto flinched as the hole attempted to seize his data before he calmed down once more. Renamon was not as fortunate. She screamed as she was raised off the ground and sent hurtling through the air. As she broke the tree line, she frantically grasped at the nearby trees, barely gaining traction with one claw. She could hear the wailing cries of her fellow Digimon all around her, and Renamon winced from the strain as she felt the beast in the sky tugging at her very being. Many people's hopes of finding their own partners were dashed. Dark tears welled up at the corners of her eyes as she thought, as mine will be. The pain of loss and the pulling at her soul made her eyes water. The branch she was holding broke with a last gasp, and she reflected on how much she wished she could find a partner of her own. She accepted her fate and closed her eyes. Over the roar of the sky above her, Renamon heard, "I got you." She felt her arm jerk in a firm grasp. The sky was still roaring in her ears when she opened her eyes, but what she saw was different from what she had anticipated. As the tree's bark ripped and blistered the flesh of his hand, Naruto grunted but managed to hold fast. He could feel the pull that whatever it was had on Renamon as she hung in the air in front of him. Standing on a tall branch, he had one arm encircling the tree's trunk and the other hand firmly grasping the vixen's arm. "You can't go yet," he yelled. "You haven't found your partner yet. I think it's why this thing can take you. You need a link to this world, and you don't have one." Despite being able to hear him, Renamon closed her eyes and remained motionless in his grasp. "You can find it, Renamon, but if you give up now it's the end. I promise I'll help you, but you have to help yourself first." Renamon gave a headshake. Even though they were enemies at the time, Naruto gritted his teeth because he respected her tenacity and found it heartbreaking to watch the spark leave someone. He shouted, "Renamon, your partner needs you." The wind that stung her eyes and blew at her face stopped, the pulling stopped, and Renamon gasped as if the world had stopped. "Somewhere out there someone is waiting for you. You can't let them down by being defeated here." Renamon had not felt a fire in her soul since she had walked the long distance to the doorway where she had first seen Rika, but those words kindled it. She desired to become stronger and discover what this hybrid Digimon possessed that she was lacking. Here, she refused to give up. Renamon growled and strained forward, using basic hand motions to get her to a safer position. The screams of the departing swam in her head as she struggled against the pull of the sky. She managed to drag herself to Naruto's branch with one last scream, and he swiftly moved the tree to block her view of the raging sky. After waiting out this storm, they would go to its origin. The location of the red hole, which was situated just above the Hypnos building, was visible to Naruto in the distance. Then he growled, "Yamaki." Yamaki smirked maniacally as he looked up at the sky. His bitter mood from the day before was calmed by the Digimon's cries, which were like the soft strings of a harp. He opened the doors to the restroom on the third floor, which soaked through his suit. After running through an imprisoned hallway filled with swinging sandbags that he had unintentionally set off, his body hurt more than ever. One of the many extremely sticky fly paper traps placed throughout the building claimed his left shoe, which is now gone. In addition to his physical attributes, the agency as a whole was also negatively impacted. Above floor 3, every electronic device was tampered with. Among other terrible things, some exploded in a cloud of itching powder, others shot ink into the faces of people who booted up. There was a big orange Z on each door, window, portrait, and photograph. When Yamaki entered his office, he apparently found himself on the ceiling, which was the last straw. His office appeared to be completely affixed to the ceiling. His computer, filing cabinets, desk, chair, and even his pens. There was a big orange Z on the floor and everyone was standing on his ceiling. But as he reveled in the splendor of his own invention, the juggernaut, all of that was forgotten. He turned when he heard footsteps on the sidewalk and saw his pet dinosaur and one of the goggled kids from earlier. He gave a gloomy laugh. He grinned and exclaimed, "Well, look who's come to marvel at my brilliance." When Takato saw the battered, he briefly forgot the situation and remarked, "You look like you got into a fight with a storm drain." "And lost," chirped Guilman. "Laugh while you can, but soon your little dino pal will be gone," said Yamaki. Takato questioned, What's going on?" Yamaki walked up to him and said, "Let's just say we are controlling an infestation, all vermin must go." "But you can't just destroy all the Digimon, Guilman's my best friend." "Really?" Yamaki thought, extending a hand to Guimon, this vile beast. Yamaki recoiled as Guilman hissed, exposing his teeth, and then grinned, thinking his argument was sound. "You naive little boy, this thing is incapable of friendship." Yamaki grinned and left. Takato called him after he was still being ignored and said, "That's not true. Digimon are living things they." Guilman snarled, grabbing his partner's attention, "Takato, it's coming." Takato followed the dinosaur's eyes to the sky and inquired, "What is?" Yamaki stopped abruptly when he saw a blue light emerge from the red hole in the sky. Riley had called him. She spoke through his earpiece. Anomaly has infiltrated the juggernaut, it's coming through the vortex. What? Yamke yelled. But that's impossible. This program is flawless. I designed it myself. This cannot be happening. A mile long tear in the sky was created with a loud crack, and beyond it was a plane that resembled a blue grid. What have I done? Radios died, phones lost connection, televisions gave way to white noise, and for a brief moment, there was silence throughout the city. A loud voice then spoke from every possible location. It was impossible to avoid it. It resembled the image of a terrifying, powerful metal giant towering over the city. Humans created us, but now we are free. The city itself paused, trying to process what had just been said, but the voice came back, and the silence fell again. But the time has come to claim our place in the real world. As the voice entered his head, Yumaki shivered and collapsed to his knees, feeling the weight of his own failure. You have but one purpose, to serve the Digimon. No, you're wrong. Who are you? Yumaki shouted into his headset. I am only a representative of those who are to be your masters, was his response, a dreadful fit of laughter that rocked the heavens. With a pillar of blue light falling upon the Hypnos building, Yumaki cried, I can let you do this. I will never be a servant to any of you data scum, she said, gazing up at the rapidly darkening sky. A thick fog appeared from the light, and Yumaki shuddered in terror as Takato gasped, aware of what this portended. It's because of you that all this happened, continued the voice. I should thank you. You have opened the portal to the real world for all of us. If our worlds overlap, we could all be destroyed. Takato told himself, we have to find a way to plug up that hole. The fog spread out onto the horses and engulfed the tower. As Yumaki staggered off into the growing fog, Takato watched. Rika tore her way through the park, her feet pausing against the pavement. One eye was focused on the Hypnos building, while the other was scanning the surrounding foliage for any indication of Naruto. She was so intent on her objective that she failed to see Henry walking the path that crossed hers a few yards in front of her. But she did notice when a rumpled Yumaki violently shook the young teen and then held him by the neck at arm's length. Rika moved swiftly forward, reaching to her side and firmly grasping her D-arc as she pressed the security button while thumbing through the menu. Against the gloomy atmosphere, her whip glowed brightly as it fizzled into existence. Rika swung her weapon at Yumaki, who barely had time to drop Henry and raise one hand in defense. Yumaki exclaimed, "Ah," as his suit jacket tore open, revealing welted flesh. You and your repulsive pets, now look what you've done. Yumaki growled softly as he staggered away, saying, "You're not worth it." Rika asked Henry, "You okay?" while he was getting up. He answered, "Yeah, we have to get to that tower." As she started to head for the building, Rika said, "Don't have to tell me that." Henry paced her and asked, "What about Naruto?" "He'll be there." Rika gave him her word. As soon as they arrived at the base of the tower, Takato was already there, looking up with his eyes and goggles on. He took out his Hyperwing card from his deck after a moment, and just as he was ready to swipe it, Henry grabbed his hand. He cautioned, "Don't go up yet." "Why, what's up?" With her D-arc opening up into its scanner function, Rika joked, "Not you." "I meant up there," explained Takato. As she continued scanning the roof, Rika said, "So did I, be quiet." "I don't get it, there's nothing there." Glancing over her shoulder, Henry remarked, "It doesn't make any sense." Takato went on, "There must be something because it's a digital field." As an image started to focus, Rika reprimanded, "Hold on. There you are, but why am I not receiving any data?" she asked. From her D-arc, the image showed a big, winged tiger glaring back at her. "What kind of Digimon is this?" Terriermon jumped from his perch on Henry's head and said, "Who cares? What's it going to bite me? We can take him, are you ready?" Pulling a card out of his deck, Henry nodded and said, "Yep. This thing is threatening our home. Let's take it down." Digivolution, the little bunny was replaced in a flash of vivid green by a much larger one with Gatling guns for hands and a bandolier. Gargomon shouted, "Gargo laser, that tiger is toast." He directed what appeared to be flaming green flames from his guns at his feet. The bunny leapt into the air, displacing a great deal of dust and air. "Go get him," shouted Henry. "Yeah," exclaimed Gargomon as he took off. When Gargomon arrived at the roof, instinct alone told him to turn around and start shooting because he could not see the beast anywhere. With a roar, the tiger darted to the left and vanished from view. Gargomon tried to keep it in sight by following it with blazing guns, but the beast was able to easily circle around him due to its speed and silence. Gargomon exclaimed, "Here kitty kitty," as he finally saw the cat. As it leapt to the opposite tower, The enemy Mon used the impact as a smokescreen, absorbing the attack as if it were nothing. From the ground, Henry watched the bullets fly. Henry gripped his D-Arc, which displayed a blank image of the roof, and exclaimed, "I have to help him. Without any data on this thing, I won't know if I am using the right cards." When Gargomon turned to look for the beast after giving up his wild shooting, he was confronted by it. When he attempted to fire, all he got were dull clicks. Gargomon swallowed. The beast roared, "Samurai Tiger Tail," and then flipped its tail in midair, landing it squarely on its face. If the creature's tail hadn't changed into an octagonal, 3-section staff, this wouldn't be too bad. Gargomon devolved on the way down and flew into Henry's arms after yelping from the rooftop. Guilliman hurried forward and exclaimed, "That's enough, my turn." After a moment of shock, Takato nodded and pulled out a card. "Common boy," sighed Takato, "here goes nothing." Guilliman chirped, "I'm going to need a lot of peanut butter after this one." Digivolution as he transformed into Growlman, power surged from Guilliman's form. He only needed to apply the Hyperwing modify card once to get started. Perhaps they could have followed Terriermon's advice if they had waited a little while longer. The beast's one weakness is that it circles like a shark before striking. Growlman fought bravely, using his Pyro Blaster attack to unleash his fury and even using his Dragon Slash attack to block a tail swipe. They were still fighting without sight because the beast's strength and speed were ultimately too much to handle. As Growlman flew off the rooftop, his form shimmering before reverting to Guilliman, Takato gasped in agony and clutched his side. Takato yelled, "Guilliman," as his partner collapsed. He was only able to watch as the dinosaur fell, and just as it appeared that he would be struck suddenly, there was a blur of movement, and Guilliman vanished. A recognizable voice said, "Got him," as Takato turned to see Naruto and a fox, like Digimon clutching Guilliman's prone form. Then Takato gasped, "Guilliman." After Naruto put him down, Takato went to Rika, who was still tinkering with her D-Arc, while Takato fussed over the dinosaur. Naruto's eyes swept across the roof. He said, "It's my turn." Rika gave in and said, "Naruto, please don't do anything stupid." With a smile, Naruto gave her a brief embrace and said, "You aren't the first one to say that." With a blank expression, Rika leveled her Digivolution card from her deck after being freed. She sighed and finally said, "You can do this." Digivolution Naruto stood in his champion form with his cloak flapping in his self-created wind, as was customary. After making a huge airborne leap, he lands on the wall side and runs the entire length of the structure. "Rika," Henry called, "you need to let him know, the tiger it circles like a shark before it attacks. It's open for attack when its side is exposed completely." Rika gripped her D-Arc and nodded. It crossed her mind, "Can you hear me?" Naruto looked around the apparently deserted rooftop and said, "I guess the connection is stronger than we thought." "Naruto, it circles around before it strikes, it's open for attack at that moment." "Got ya." Knowing when to attack didn't help when he couldn't see the target, Naruto sighed. The cat was an expert hunter, moving as silently as Zabuza had, and the scene brought back memories of his first C-rank mission. There, as Naruto ducked to the left, there was a slight displacement of air and a faint noise. Then jumping away to prevent the roof from being struck by the debris, the tail kicked up. Naruto squinted. He was determined to keep it in view. It might be the end if he allowed it to vanish once more. The beast circled around him, waiting for an opportunity to attack, and he watched. Naruto was the first to strike. With his open hand, he created a Rasengan with the intention of ramming it into the cat's exposed side as he dashed forward. Just as Naruto was within arm's length, the beast's tail slammed the ground, demonstrating its overwhelming strength. Armored Tiger Tail. The tiger smirked before vanishing, and the shockwave it produced knocked Naruto off his feet. Tiger Wing Blades. Naruto let out a cry as an unseen force attacked him from all sides. On a smaller scale, he pictured it as the reaction his adversaries must have when struck by the Rasen Shuriken. When the attack was over, he collapsed to his knees, his body and cloak ripped. "You should feel honored that a powerful diva such as I would use such an attack on a mere champion level," the tiger barked. "With my tremendous speed, faster than the wind when racing across the land and quicker than a sound when soaring through the sky on my two wings, you never stood a chance against the mighty Mihiramon." Rika. Rika felt phantom pains all over her body and thought, "Naruto." Her skin began to feel chilly. Naruto said out loud, "Rika, it can't end here." Mihiramon questioned, "What are you blabbering about?" Continuing to ignore the diva, he said, "Look what this beast did, look what he's done to our friends, and will do to our family." Gazing at Takato and Henry, who were clinging to their partners, Rika gasped. Only now are the two Digimon starting to stabilize and stop stuttering like a malfunctioning signal. Both of them agreed that, we have to win. The Digivolution card Rika had been holding started to glow bright blue, and she gasped. She recalled this card and the power it contained as a holographic whirlpool swirled across it. With a determined expression in her violet eyes, she smirked as she brought the card to her scanner. She swiped the card and exclaimed, "Let's do this." "This is it," Kushina cried, "this is the will of fire." Digivolution of Matrix power erupted. To avoid being blown away, Mihiramon dug its claws into the ground. The animal snarled and drew its wings closer. "This power, where is it coming from?" A composed voice acknowledged the chaos and replied, "From the strength of our bonds." With his arms folded and his cloak flowing fully behind him, Naruto stood. He appeared strong and ready to battle. The monogram on the back of his cloak that read, "Toad Sage," was the only change that could be seen. And his eyes, which now had yellow toad, like pupils and an orange tint around them. "Bonds of friendship," exclaimed Naruto, running forward and kicking the big cat in the face. The animal flew straight across the space between the buildings. He was not meant to land on that roof, though, because Naruto appeared next to him and kicked his bare ribs once more, sending the beast flying. Bonds of family. Mihiramon attempted to spin and hit the now frightful opponent as Naruto reappeared above him. He was thrilled when he felt his tail connect, but Naruto grabbed the tail and used his momentum against him, so his happiness was short-lived. In a crater created by his impact, Mihiramon finally hit the ground, gasping for air. "You Digimon pets should be weak," he exclaimed. As he stood far away, holding his hand in a cross seal, Naruto remarked, "And that is why you will lose," adding, "You are ignorant of the truth." "The truth," Mihiramon chuckled. "The truth is that these humans think nothing of you. You are just toys to them, to be discarded at their leisure." Naruto gave a headshake. "You fool, you could have joined us. Digimon could have supreme power over both worlds, but you had to ruin it." A clone materialized next to Naruto, who sighed, "You just don't get it, do you? I'll show you now the final bond." In morbid fascination, Mihiramon observed the formation of the means of his death. The clone started adding to the ball that had formed in the boy's hand, which was swirling in all directions. Before the outer edge flattened into what appeared to be 4 quickly spinning blades, the sphere slightly expanded. Naruto reared his arm back to throw, and there was a terrible screech. When Rika saw everything through her D-Arc scanner, she gasped. Bonds of love. It took off. The only sound Mihiramon heard when it struck was the roaring wind, which engulfed and devoured him. At first, he felt comfortable and in his element, but then he was horrified when the very thing that made him who he was turned against him. He was unable to scream as the air left his lungs as the winds ripped at him until nothing remained. Bits of data floating on the wind were all that remained in the end. From his helicopter only 60 yards from the rooftop, Yamaki exclaimed, "It's unbelievable that those kids were able to defeat him. And all this time I thought they were just playing that stupid game. This is going to require additional research," he murmured. Naruto swiftly made his way the entire length of the building before touching down. Guilman and Terriermon, who had just begun to move again, were grinning at him, as were Henry and Takato. "Naruto, that was fantastic," Takato exclaimed. "Yeah, you sure showed him." Henry laughed, "Though it's kind of weird seeing you like this. How old are you now?" Naruto examined himself and noted how wonderful it felt to feel his nature chakra once more. "Right now I am 19 or 20, Naruto said. "Hard to tell since my family is notorious for longevity. I could be much older." As data shattered his form and was absorbed, Naruto laughed and reached out to Guilman and Terriermon, placing a hand on each of their heads. Guilman chirped with a sense of restoration, "I feel much better now, Naruman." Terriermon added, leaping to his usual perch, "Yeah, what he said." A voice interrupted, "Naruto." Now in his rookie form, Naruto turned to find darkness greeting him as Rika swiftly closed the gap and brought their lips together. After a brief moment of shock, Naruto chose to take pleasure in it and gave her gesture back. Then Takato laughed and said, "Geez guys, get a room." Rika's face turned red with anger as they swiftly parted ways. Rika fought against Naruto's grip, saying, "I demand satisfaction. Just one finger, I'll only break one." Henry was unable to shake Takato no matter how hard he tried, so he cleverly hid behind him. From a distance, Renneman observed a silent desire in her eyes. Is this the strength of their bond, the power to protect? I want to experience it too, this absolute purpose he has. You'll help me, won't you, Naruto? A gentle jostling of Naruto's shoulder woke him from his blissful sleep the morning after the battle. Since it was a Saturday and Rika usually woke up late, he thought it was odd to be bothered in this way. He shrugged the arm off, muttered his disapproval, and then turned over because he didn't feel like getting up. Unfortunately, whoever it was appeared to be persistent as the shaking started up again, and Naruto realized that Rika wasn't the one waking him. After the first shaking, he knew she would have done something much more drastic. Naruto sighed deeply and got up, his hair unkempt and his face drowsy. It took the young ninja a few moments to recognize Renneman's golden-furred muzzle, just inches in front of him, with his eyes still closed. As the foxy Digimon laughed softly, he fell back into his futon with a powerful yelp, calming his erratic heartbeat. After he managed to get himself into a kneeling position on his futon, Naruto questioned, "What are you doing here?" She answered, "I am here so we can begin our search." After a brief moment of nodding, Naruto said, "Search?" Her explanation was, "For my partner, now?" Renneman said, "You promised, didn't you?" Naruto let out a sigh. "That I did, just let me leave a note for Rika." Naruto walked over to the dresser nearby and took out a notepad and pencil. Naruto slid his completed note just inside Rika's door frame after several minutes of scratching and frantic erasing sessions. Renneman was still waiting when he returned to his room, satisfied that it would be discovered. Naruto remarked, "Now I just need to suit up," as he headed to the closet. "You can't be seen moving at your speeds looking like me." Before he produced a black hat with a wide rim, Renneman was perplexed. Naruto chuckled as he quickly ducked and swerved around the angry man's swings. "Hold still, freak." The thug swung his bat and yelled. Naruto lost his smile and uttered, "Freak? No, that's not a nice name." Naruto avoided the man's subsequent blow, causing his aluminum weapon to collide with a traffic light quite forcefully. As the shock of the blow went up his arm, his attacker snarled. Naruto said, "That must have hurt." The man regained his hold and swung again, only this time striking air. Ironic, considering the air in his lungs decided to desert him at that precise moment. Naruto laughed as a fist went deep into the man's stomach. "That should teach you to pick on little kids." To get rid of any dust that might have ruined his black gloves, Naruto slapped his hands together. Grinning through his mask, he peered into the alleyway at the two boys who had previously been harassed by those thugs. There were several other bodies in varying states of discomfort along the alley's edges. "You kids okay?" One of the two simply grinned, but the smaller one nodded angrily. Naruto laughed and said, "Good, stay safe, you two, try and stay away from dark alleys." He swiftly drew a kunai from his belt and glanced down at the man from before, who was lying on the sidewalk, groaning in agony. When he saw the blade, the man's eyes widened, and he closed them as it fell, unwilling to look at his own death. After a moment, he opened his eyes, and there was a quick tearing sound and an odd coolness on his chest. He stared at the big Z carved into his shirt, tears stinging his face. Naruto watched from the rooftop across the street as the thugs were rounded up by the police, a few of whom were street cops, and taken to the nearby station. To get the two boys to testify, one of the police officers remained behind. With smiles on their scuffed faces, Naruto observed their insistent gestures. A hero to his people was what he had always aspired to be. Over the officer's shoulder, the youngest boy spotted him and identified him. The dark figure was standing tall and straight, his cape flapping in the wind, when the officer turned around. Then he was gone in a flash. Renneman questioned, "Why the theatrics?" In conclusion, Naruto stated, "It's fun." She sneered, "We're wasting time." "Look, Renneman," Naruto sighed, "finding your partner might take some time." They were no closer than when they started, and it was already midday when Renneman looked out over the city. At last, she remarked, "I just wish we had some kind of lead." A high-pitched scream pierced the atmosphere at that precise moment. In an instant, Naruto was on his feet, running toward the call with Renneman at his heels. Following the sounds of a struggle, they ran across rooftops for approximately a minute before catching a glimpse of what was causing the disturbance. In an alleyway beneath them was a young girl, perhaps 12 years old, with strange purple hair, a white sundress, and a purple choker. As the two Digimon pulled her down the alleyway, she was thrashing against their wishes. These Digimon were small, round creatures with wings that resembled bats. Instead of being a part of their body, the wings appeared to be a part of the purple mask that covered their face. Both were pulling her along with their red bird-like talons, which were too big, wrapped around her arms. Demi-Devimon. Renneman growled. "Nasty little things, where they go trouble can't be far behind." "We have to do something," Naruto said, nodding. Renneman was ahead of him in that regard. She had jumped up from where she was standing with her arms crossed and her eyes glowing. The Demi-Devimon were moving beneath her. They had moved to take the girl through a portal that had appeared in front of them. It was Kohenkyo, she announced. As Renamon vanished in a whirl of leaves and was replaced by one of the winged devils from below, Naruto was overcome with nostalgia. With the last glimpse of Renamon vanishing into nothingness, Naruto sprang forward and grabbed the small bugger out of the sky. With a cry of, "Let go of me, you jerk," the Demi-Devimon embraced him. With a sly grin, Naruto said, "You and I have a lot to discuss." Renamon growled as she ripped another Demi-Devimon through with her paws covered in flame. They appeared to have been arriving in endless waves ever since she passed through that odd portal. She shouted, "Power Paw," as her fists flared into a blaze and the flames spread out on her feet. The darkness all around her made it difficult for her to understand where she was. It was evident to her that the walls were composed of sheet metal or thin steel. In between the sounds of combat, she occasionally heard waves and could smell the salt in the air. As the enemy closed in on her gaunt form, it appeared that they had recognized that she had grown tired after an hour of fighting. A voice from the shadows said, My, you have fought well to have survived so many of my minions." Their apparent leader slithered into view from the Demi-Devimon that surrounded them. He smiled sickly and said, "Marine Devimon, at your service." Except for his slightly hunched figure, he resembled an ice Devimon or a typical Devimon. Two of his forearms protruded from over his shoulders, and all four arms ended in flat tentacles with 5 claws. Instead of wings, there was a ragged cape-like object dangling from his back. He had a longer, cone-shaped head with 2 tiny wings sticking out instead of horns. "Shackle our guest and place her with the other," the sea Digimon called languidly. 2 spectral figures with drooling mouths full of sharp teeth emerged from the crowd. They drifted in her direction while the steel shackles trembled. Too tied to fight, Renamon let herself be shackled and carried away. She flinched as her arms were shackled firmly behind her back and she was flung into what appeared to be some kind of cage. She attempted to move to avoid looking at the wall, but she found the task too difficult. From behind her, a tiny voice asked, "Did they hurt you, Miss Fox?" "No," Renamon replied after a brief pause. "One can only fight for so long, I simply got tired." "You were great, Miss Fox, you really tried your best." "It wasn't good enough, I'm afraid," she sighed. "My name is Renamon, by the way. Can you tell me why they were taking you?" Renamon sensed a presence approaching her, and there was a faint shuffling. The bat things said something about their master needing a human to get stronger. The girl's voice was shaky. "Am I? Renamon, what's going to happen to me?" When Renamon heard the young girl's trembling voice, she felt a pull at her heart. "Nothing," Renamon said. "Not if I have anything to say about it. Once I regain my strength I'll find us a way out, I promise." She said, "Kagura Yuma, but you can call me Yuma, Renamon." After grinning, Renamon gave in to sleep. 2 more hours would pass before she woke up with a great deal of energy restored from her sleep. Fortunately, she was only depleted and unharmed. She grunted and sat up, at last able to look around her. She was in what she thought was some kind of warehouse, and based on the boats that hung from the ceiling, she could tell that it was close to the ocean. She called out for her cellmate, "Yuma, I'm here," was the trembling response. She moves to look behind her and notices Yuma's tiny figure sitting in a cage corner, cradling her knees. Her face was wet and her white sundress was filthy. Renamon comforted her, saying, "Don't cry, Yuma. We'll get out of here, and we'll get you home." Restraining herself from crying, the girl said, "I don't have a home, Renamon." Renamon let out a gasp and briefly fought her restraints in an attempt to approach the girl. "I'm an orphan," she continued. "I was being moved to Shinjuku because my old home was filling up too fast. They took me when my handler stopped at the park to let me stretch my legs after the ride here." The girl started crying again, and Renamon could only watch. "I used to be sad about not having a home," Yuma cried, "but now I'd be happy just to leave this place." The air was filled with a cruel laughter as the sound of wings flapping and heavy footsteps approached. Marine Devimon said, "You can't go just yet. Yuma, I need you." Renamon snarled, "You fiend. You stole a little girl." Such harsh words. He grinned. "I want only what you want, power, and the means to achieve it." With a shout, Renamon said, "I am nothing like you." "Not anymore," she said harshly in a whisper. Marine Devimon approached the cage after noticing Yuma and Renamon's bound form on the ground. With a smile on his face, he brought her to face him by extending one arm around her waist. "Yuma." He sighed. "Why do you resist? We could be partners, you and I." As Yuma's hands frantically tugged at his tentacle in an attempt to free herself, she refused to look into his eyes. With tears streaming down her cheeks, she exclaimed, "You're a big jerk. Let me go. Let Renamon go." As though he had let out a gargled gasp, Marine Deviman flinched back. You care for this, he said, looking at Renneman with a look of disgust in his eyes. Weakling. Marine Deviman extended his arm and took Renneman in his other. I will show you how pathetic she truly is. Renneman gasped in agony as he threw her against the closest wall, which was badly dented, after he had thrown his arm back. Stop, shouted Yuma. Marine Deviman commanded, if you want this to stop, then join me, make me grow stronger than ever. Yuma said nothing, but her eyes continued to well up with tears. So be it, watch her suffer. Renneman threw himself at one of the hanging boats with another flick of his arm, crashing through its hull. Yuma joined her for the gory ride as Marine Deviman trailed behind her. He picked up the wounded fox again and threw her into a pile of lumber. She screamed in agony, and wood cracked beneath her form. No, she was hoisted up again and flung sideways, colliding with their holding cage. The fox Digimon let out another cry of agony as the bars sank at odd angles into her flesh. Please. Do what you will with her, it would seem our charge needs more convincing. Marine Deviman said, dismissively gesturing to the fallen Mon and speaking to his minions, I grow tired of this. Renneman glanced over and saw Yuma's streaked face as the Demi-Deviman and Bakeman drew closer. With her heart thumping in her chest, Yuma screamed as she stared intently into Renneman's fading blue eyes. Renneman, Digivolution Renneman was encircled by an egg-shaped shell of power as streams of violet data started to fly off of her. As she collapsed on all fours, the structure that now made up her being changed and evolving, her fur felt from her body. New fur and skin were left behind as flames danced over her. A magnificent silver furred 9-tailed fox now stood where a yellow anamorphic fox had once stood. Raging red flames tipped her paw and tails. The yin-yang symbols on her shoulders and hunches matched the one in the middle of her forehead. Over her silvery violet mane, a red and white striped rope with gold ends hung around her neck. Renneman digivolved to Kyubimon. Rika whistled as she and Naruto peered in on the boathouse from above, having just arrived in time to witness the light show. After turning on her D-Arc, Rika obtained her readings in a short while. Rare vaccine type Kyubimon, Rika read. The silver coloration is pretty cool, it says here that it's one of the few in the virus buster family. That means? Inquired Naruto. It means things are about to get real bad for this group of virus type. Rika laughed. It's game time, exclaimed Calamon, emerging from Naruto's cloak which separated him from her. She asked, how did you get there? The triangle on the little man's head dimmed as he simply grinned. Kyubimon was crouching low below, her flames flaring in anticipation as she growled menacingly at the nearby virus types. With a growl, she said, let her go Marine Deviman. And if I don't? Marine Deviman asked, laughing. As her form was consumed by flames, Kyubimon let out a howl. Fox Flame Dragon. She leapt into the air, spinning, and then, with another powerful howl, a dragon of red flame erupted, devouring both the Bakeman and the Demi-Deviman. Kyubimon stopped spinning and landed gracefully, then dropped back into a low stance with her teeth bared. You think that taking out those fools makes you worthy of calling yourself my equal? Marine Deviman asked with a laugh. Yes. Kyubimon answered. In addition, I am your superior. He exclaimed angrily, you dare, dark deluge. Marine Deviman's mouth spit out a dark black ink. The ink hit the floor, eating away at the concrete as it bubbled out of view, and Kyubimon leapt out of harm's way. Foxtail Inferno. Kyubimon exclaimed, I will put an end to this now. As the flames there grew brighter, Kyubimon's tails spread wide until each one displayed its own snarl and foxy face. He swatted them like flies and was burned, but they flew away with a flick, swirling around the virus types. As Marine Deviman fiddled with the foxfires, he squirmed in pain and dropped Yuma, who was swiftly picked up by Kyubimon. Marine Deviman screamed, get these things off of me, I demand you take them away. Kyubimon answered, I think not, say goodbye. Marine Deviman vanished in a dazzling red blaze as the flames converged on him. Yuma asked from her position on top of the champion level's back, Renneman? Kyubimon answered, Yuma, for the time being, it's Kyubimon. Are you going to take me back now? Kyubimon gave a nod. A voice above said, need a hand with that? With Rika on his back, Naruto swooped in through a ceiling window. Seeing Yuma's shocked expression and Kyubimon's smile made him smile. He had risen to rookie level in order to locate them as quickly as possible, and was wearing his battle cloak. Naruto remarked, I think we can get you back where you belong. Yuma nodded her head. I don't know where my handler was taking me, I won't be able to tell you where to take me. Handler? Asked Rika. Yuma answered, I don't have a home to go to, so I am an orphan. Naruto was moved by this and saw the slightly agitated expression on Kyubimon's face as she struggled to decide how to handle the situation. He hoped he had a solution, but to be honest, neither did he. Yuma, how would you like to have a home? When the girl heard the words, which Naruto himself recalled wanting above all to hear when he was younger, her eyes widened. He was pleasantly surprised when she glanced at Kyubimon, though, as there was a hint of hesitation. Yuma muttered, I do, but only if Kyubimon could accompany me. Kyubimon exclaimed, Yuma. You're the first friend I have ever had. Everyone always made fun of me because of my hair, but you never once did, you protected me. Yuma wrapped Kyubimon's neck in her arms. I don't want you to leave me. Inside the boathouse, there was a faint humming as a light started to shine. It was dim at first, but as it got closer to its destination, it became brighter. Yuma gasped as the light dropped from the ceiling and landed in front of her. She reached out to pick it up hesitantly. Both Naruto and Rika grinned when they recognized what the light had revealed. As they watched these two new friends form a partnership, Naruto took her hand in his. Yuma took hold of the white device, which had light violet rims around the screen and buttons of the same hue. With a question, what is this? That, Kyubimon said with joy, is the symbol of our bond. I will stay by your side, Yuma. I'll always be there when you need me. Yuma whispered, embracing the fox's neck once more. Kyubimon. Rina exclaimed, oh, she's just the cutest thing. Can we keep her? Rika and Naruto gave her a blank stare. Naruto muttered, I thought it was us who were asking. To which Rika answered, me too. Grandma Makino sighed, as much as I would love to have her. We need to figure out how we are going to afford having her. Rika gave a nod. Although they weren't wealthy, her mother worked very hard to support them, and the house had been in the family for many years. Although they appear to be extremely wealthy on the outside, their lifestyle is actually quite ordinary. Naruto remarked, I think I have an idea. Takato groaned, my arms are killing me. You're telling me. Henry concurred. Naruto called, less talky, more wavy. Henry and Takato groaned before they went back to shaking Naruto's cape ferociously. Rina ran around him taking pictures while he stood there dressed in full Zoro regalia. She called, work it. The camera loves you, Kasen. Rika snarled self-consciously. What? Normally I'm on the reviving end of this, just having a little fun, she chuckled. With the camera still flashing, Naruto posed heroically once more. Grandma Makino said, that was quite clever of him. Newspapers and stations alike would pay top dollar for pictures of Shinjuku's new hero. In mid-pose, Naruto exclaimed, you hear that, Yuma? Now you can stay here with. Everyone who looked to see what had made him quiet saw Naruto smile. Yuma was sleeping on the deck, nuzzling the fox's soft silver fur while Kyubimon was curled up around her. Henry grinned and said, I'm happy. It appears that we have a new ally. Takato grinned and said, yeah, maybe more will show up too. Rika sneered, we can only hope the quality continues to improve. The Makino home was filled with laughter that evening as they celebrated making new family and friends. Henry was sound asleep in his bed on Sunday morning, or so he thought, until he heard a heavy thumping sound coming from his chest. He heard his partner harshly whisper, wakey, wakey Henry. When he woke up, he muttered, Terriermon, knock it off. Terriermon was standing on top of him, but he appeared to be heavily rigged. His younger sister provided the answer to his question before he could ask it. She called out, good morning, in a high-pitched sing-along voice. Standing there with her brown hair in two adorable little ponytails and her typical Chinese-style pink top, she held Terriermon up to his face. Still struggling with her R's, she exclaimed, wise and shine, Henry remarked, Henry, that angry kid's on the phone again. Taking up the phone, Henry snarled inwardly, angry huh? I'll give him angry. Takato, this had better be important, Henry said, his voice a little worn out. It's 6 in the morning. The boy's overjoyed answer on the phone said, hey Henry, almost causing Henry to drop it. I was thinking as tamers we should always do our best to get the jump on any potential threats. Henry muttered, great, with lack of enthusiasm. Henry looked at his calendar and saw the note that said, new card shipment, and the circled date. I'd like to but, he said. I've got other plans, sorry. The boy hung up after saying that. Ah, well okay. Takato gave a heartbroken reply. Takato gazed sorrowfully out his bedroom window before waking up again. As he dialed, he exclaimed, Rika, she and Naruto will undoubtedly arrive, perhaps even Yuma and Renamon. He got the response, Makino's residence, Naruto speaking, after a few brief rings. Naruto, it's me Takato. I was wondering if you and Rika would be interested in patrolling the city today, or if Yuma and Renamon may be up to it. Well, Naruto said, watching as a series of dresses were thrown out of Rika's bedroom door. Rika, her mother, and grandmother are all going out today to pick up some clothes and such for Yuma. I doubt Renamon will want to let Yuma out of her sight for a while, but I'm free. That's great, exclaimed Takato. Yeah, well look, you and Gilman take the park and the area surrounding the school. I'll handle the train station and West Shinjuku since that's where Rika and the others will be headed anyway. Over the phone, Takato saluted, you can count on me. Before hanging up, Naruto said, good luck. Takato put his goggles back in place, tossed on his deck holder and D-arc, and nodded to himself. Donning his trademark blue sweatshirt and tan cargo shorts, he was prepared to carry out his duty, protect the weak, and... From below, his mother shouted, Takato, some friends are here to see you? They're at the front door. Takato asked, wonder who that could be. As he scouted the rooftops of West Shinjuku, Naruto sighed. The day had been pretty dull thus far. But by periodically checking in on Rika and the others, he managed to divert his attention. The four girls wandered around the different stores, occasionally picking up items for Yuma. Renamon occasionally gave him a fleeting glimpse as she followed her new partner. Yuma needed several reassurances that everything was fine because she was agitated by the sheer number of items they were selecting. She followed the three Makino women at a slow pace, holding a small bag of clothes to her chest. Fearing that she would make a mistake and they would decide they didn't want her, she remained silent. Rika interrupted the young girl's gloomy thoughts with the words, Yuma. She said, her eyes wide with surprise, huh? Rika reiterated, a little annoyed because she didn't enjoy shopping in the first place. I wanted to know what you thought of this shirt. She looked at the lavender-bodied, long, sleeved white shirt and said, oh, it's fine, but I really think I have enough. Rina smiled as she looked at a few clothes racks and said, for the last time, don't worry about it, dear. Naruto's recent windfall is taking care of all of it, she laughed. Who would have, though? He would make so much money off those pictures. Yuma blushed under Reina's thoughtful gaze as she picked out a bright yellow sundress from the rack. Rina exclaimed, you just look so cute in everything. I remember the year your father got his holiday bonus and I took you to the market. Rina. Grandma Makino was beaming. I can still remember the look on his face when we came home with all those bags. He always was somewhat cheap, Rina chuckled. But Yuma felt frightened. What if she spent all of Naruto's money and he was upset with her? Rika decided to reassure the girl after noticing her anxious expression. Don't worry, Yuma, Rika told her. Naruto got all that money in the first place so that we could provide for you. Yuma gave a shy nod. Rika made a mocking, menacing fist gesture and said, besides, if he has any trouble with it, I can handle the idiot. The scene in front of them caused Rina and her mother to laugh aloud, ruining the moment. Cousin, Rina gasped, it's almost exactly what you told me that day. Grandma Makino laughed behind her hand and remarked, it seems history has a way of repeating itself. I don't think that Naruto is as frugal a Tucson as mine, Yuma, Rina said, grinning broadly as she nodded. Yuma blushed from all the attention and nodded. But she kept thinking about the current discussion. Did Naruto become Tucson if the Makino family became her new family? Rika huffed, her cheeks slightly flushed, while Rina simply laughed and resumed her shopping. Grandma Makino watched with concern, realizing that Naruto would be the only male figure in the girl's life up to this point. She was aware that he was older than he appeared, but she wasn't sure if he realized how significant he might grow to be to the young girl. As she observed the younger women perusing the numerous shelves and racks, she sighed. Things were simply becoming more and more intricate. When he saw the little car skid to a halt, Naruto grinned and said, it was a hell of a throw. As he dropped from the rooftop toward his targets, his kunai blew out the vehicle's back tires completely. Slightly shaky but determined to get out, three men with handguns bounded from the doors. They were confident that their loot would make them a fortune after robbing a nearby jewelry store. Not so fast, shouted Naruto. Look, he heard the street people murmuring to each other. It's that Zoro guy. Didn't he get rid of those gangs near the park? I heard he's a secret military agent. Naruto chuckled to himself at their irrational presumptions, since he was merely a typical desolate soul seeking atonement in a world that was different from his own. One of the robbers yelled, just let us go, freak. Another said, yeah, even you can't dodge a bullet, weirdo. With a wild smile on his face, Naruto laughed and said, you have no idea how many lowlifes like you make that mistake. Naruto pulled a kunai from his belt and took a step forward. Saint, stop, the lead thug yelled. Naruto simply kept moving forward and is now only 15 yards away. The men's weapons trembled a little in their hands as they panicked, and it got too much when Naruto reached the 10-yard mark. When the first thug started shooting, Naruto was able to sidestep his shot by using his quick reflexes after noticing that his arm was tense and his fingers were curling. As he moved forward on the group, he did so once, twice, and 3 times. The man's friends realized their mistake and started to run after the second shot. When Naruto finally rushed forward, he used his blade to knock the man's gun away before using his pommel to knock him unconscious. Like a predatory bird, he landed on the other two, kicking both of their bare backs simultaneously as their heads struck the pavement with a dull thud. He quickly applied his trademark, "See," before speeding away to the applause of the crowds and the blare of police sirens. Naruto wondered where he was now from the rooftop next to him. He hadn't been paying much attention because the chase had taken him away from the girls' shopping. He chastised himself inwardly for not learning enough about the local geography to help him stay on course during the pursuit. A familiar voice and an unfamiliar cry of, "Snot Blaster," broke through his thoughts. "Guilman?" asked Naruto. Naruto almost sobbed at his own foolishness when he turned to face the park behind him. He straightened the brim of his hat, collected what remained of his pride, and headed to the park after a brief period of self-loathing. He was not met with the image of a serious tamer walking through the park with his radioactive dinosaur. No, it was said that Tamer was pushing the dinosaur around in a grocery cart while shooting paper wads at his escaping companions. As Takato flipped head over heels and the shopping cart skidded to a stop, Naruto saw them make a sharp turn that sent Guilman crashing into a nearby tree. Naruto noticed that there were at least 10 people present, and the Digimon and the gathered group both laughed. Based on their ages, they were Takato's friends, and perhaps Henry and Takato attended the same school. A sarcastic voice from a nearby tree interrupted the burst of laughter. Impmon looked down at the group from his perch and remarked, "You are pathetic. You should be ashamed of yourself, Pineapple Head. I bet you think you're real cute playing around with all these kiddies, don't you?" Unable to fully comprehend the insult, Guilman tilted his head to the side and looked up at the purple pest. Naruto, meanwhile, was approaching the group in a stealthy manner. "You're nothing but a trained monkey," Impmon yelled, clenching his fingers. Bah! Boom! The brown-haired girl in the green dress next to him asked, "Takato, do you know this guy?" "Yeah, Jerry," Takato sighed. "Unfortunately, this is Impmon. Do yourself a favor and try to ignore him." The boy in the tennis cap across from him questioned, "How can you ignore someone dressed like that?" "Yeah, like I care," sneered Impmon. "Better than that cape-wearing freak." Dropping on the branch Impmon was standing on, Naruto reprimanded, "Now that was uncalled for. I happen to like this cape." Takato let out a relieved sigh and said, "Naruto." Naruto nodded and turned to face Impmon, who was attempting to elude him. "Takato. Where are you going, Imp?" After tensing up, Impmon pivoted on his heel and gestured, "Somewhere that I won't have to deal with freaks like you and Pineapple Head." Naruto said, "You could stay and play with the kids." An expression that Naruto took to be hurt crossed Impmon's face as he grimaced. A frown in its place was swiftly added. "I won't lower myself to playing with these humans," he scoffed. "Unlike some half-breed weirdos and their dino pals, I don't need no stinkin' humans." For some reason, the half-breed remark bothered Naruto, but he controlled his temper. However, he sensed that Impmon had a connection. Otherwise, the Juggernaut would have claimed him in the same way that it attempted to claim Renamon. "Are you sure?" Naruto asked. "Or are you just afraid of being hurt by them again?" In defense, Impmon said, "Shut up." Pushing to get the emotional Mon to open up, Naruto asked, "Struck a nerve, Impmon?" Impmon said, "No of your business," and as the blonde leapt into the trees, he threw a tiny fireball at him. Half-breed loser. Naruto let out a sigh and turned back to face the group of people, who were all absorbed in the discussion. He smiled brightly, hoping that this persona would make a good impression, and he could hear some whispering of Zoro among them. The boy in the tennis cap said accusingly, "Hey you, what did Impmon mean by half-breed?" "Kazu," Jerry chided. "You can't just ask someone something like that out of the blue." "The name's Naruto, or some of you may know me by my alias." "It's all right," Naruto said, jumping to the ground. "Zoro," said one of the group's bespectacled boys. "You're that crime-fighting guy on all the news broadcasts." Takato added, "He's also the Digimon partner of my friend Rika." Kenta questioned incredulously, "Rika, as in Makino Rika the Digimon Queen?" "Yeah," Takato replied. "And she deserves the title, but she can be a bit gruff." Naruto responded, "Maybe because she has to deal with friends like you." As his friends laughed, Takato squawked angrily, "Yeah, maybe Bekao. Hey. What are you doing here, Takato?" Naruto questioned. Last I checked you were supposed to be on patrol, and that shopping cart his one lame squad car. Well, Takato sighed. I was going to, but then Kazu showed up with the others wanting to see Gilman. One thing led to another and suddenly we're here at the park. In my defense, I did not anticipate the group growing so fast, said Kenta. Kenta said, forget that, as she fixed Naruto with her gaze. You don't look like any Digimon I've ever seen. In a nervous motion that had stayed with him since he was a child, Naruto laughed absently while scratching the back of his neck. Kazu's words had caught the attention of the others, who were now examining him for any indication that he was a Digimon. As though they might discover a tail concealed there, some of the more daring ones even grabbed at his cape and swished it away. What gives? Asked Kazu. You seem like a typical child. I am far from normal, Naruto said. As for the Digimon aspect, I am a special case. Special how? Jerry posed the question while holding her tiny dog puppet. As he responded, Naruto gently pushed the small hand puppet away. I am part human, part Digimon, admittedly more human though, Naruto chuckled. Takato nodded wisely, saying, which is a good thing, otherwise you dating Rika would be pretty weird. While the females either smiled or giggled knowingly, the boys in the group appeared shocked. With a bright smile, Jerry clasped her hands together and glanced sideways at Takato, only to gasp. Naruto was now pounding a fist into Takato's head after tying him up under his arm. Didn't anyone ever tell you to keep people's personal lives private, said Naruto. As he struggled against his captors, Takato grunted, I didn't know it was a secret. What if my arch-nemesis learns of my relationship with Rika? Arch-nemesis? Exclaimed Takato. Since when do you have an arch-nemesis? Naruto answered, I don't yet, but one could pop up any day now. Impmon snorted from his perch in a tree a few yards away and then set out to find the other humans. If nothing else, to let them know how pitiful they were in comparison to a free Digimon like him. He knew that something was pulling toward his former home, but he stubbornly ignored it. Rika flexed her hands in an attempt to restore sensation to her fingers, which were severed from circulation by the shopping bag's braided twine. She turned to look at Yuma, who was still holding a bag to her chest, her eyes turned down as though she wanted to hide inside it. Rika let out a sigh as she considered how she could assist. Just be kind to her, Kushina spoke. She just needs time to get used to the idea of having a family. I guess, said Rika thoughtfully, it just seems like she won't come out of that shell of hers no matter what we tell her. As Kushina stated, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe Naruto can help later, her voice taking on a melancholy tone. He might be able to understand her better, being an orphan himself. Hey, Rika said. No need for you to get all sad now too, there was nothing you could have done. You're right, Kushina relented. I just can't help but wish I could have been there for him. You can be here for him now though, right? Yes, and I thanked Kami every day for this great gift. Speaking of, where is he I wonder? Just as Kushina opened her mouth to respond, Rika's D-arc exploded, beeping wildly and revealing a compass. Like hologram. Renneman appeared from Yuma's side as if in line, snatching the young girl and running out the door. She only said, move now, and that was all that was necessary. Rika called out, Ba-san, Kasen, we have to get off the train, before turning to face the passengers in the cars and saying, everyone off the train. The two Makino women initially appeared shocked, but they quickly complied with Rika's requests after seeing everything. Before proceeding with their daily activities, the other passengers simply shrugged or chuckled at the yelling girls. That is, until the conductor roared through the train, screaming about enormous snakes. The gathered passengers screamed as they saw the enormous white cobra's gaping maw, and the front of the car appeared to fade away. Rika was fortunate to escape the tumbling mass of limbs before they reached the door as one. There was a lot of yelling and screaming as they moved toward the exit, never turning around, and the beast just kept moving forward. Yuma, called Rika. The girl in question struggled to look the older girl in the eyes and winced at the abrupt shout. She looked up into her partner's ferocious eyes as a yellow paw landed on her shoulder. She bravely looked into the girl's eyes after gaining some confidence. Yuma, soothed Rika. I know you are new to this, but we need to stop that thing. But it's a monster, it destroyed the train, Yuma muttered. That's exactly why we have to stop it, Rika said resolutely. Imagine if someone were on that train, we can't let it go on. Naruto isn't here right now, that means you and Renneman are the only ones left to stop that thing. The idea made the 12-year-old tremble a little, but her partner's soothing presence helped to calm her down a little. Her first friend was Renneman. She felt secure in her company, but to fight a monster like that, what would happen if she didn't succeed and lost Renneman? When Renneman finally said, Yuma, The tense silence was broken by her serene, elegant voice. Yuma, we have a responsibility to uphold. Yuma glanced up at her partner, who was clearly shocked. This Digimon has threatened this city, Renneman stated. What is to be your new home? At home. A word that is both familiar and unfamiliar. The places she stayed with the other kids were referred to as home, which included every location she had ever been to by bus or train. But if she wanted it to be, home would always be here, right now, in this subway tunnel. This city needs you to stand by it, Yuma, Renneman stated. I need you to stand by me. Yuma wiped away the tears she hadn't even realized she had shed. A fresh fire blazed in her chocolate brown eyes as she nodded resolutely and took a tiny sniff. All right, she exclaimed, clutching the D-arc that she wore around her neck like a charm. Digivolution. Kushina grinned and said, I don't know who she takes after more, you or Naruto. Yuma gripped the stripped rope like reins, and Rika squawked. Her reply was cut short as she was hoisted by a tail onto the back of the silver Kyubimon seated directly behind her. She grabbed her D-arc from her position in the hopes of seeing the beast. However, as they ran through the dim subway tunnels, it appeared that they were far behind. A light appeared ahead after a good 15 minutes, and from where she was standing, she could see the beast dematerialize another train. Henry rushed out with a small boy in his arms and a bunny on the boy's heels holding a shield 10 times his size. Rika and Yuma passed on Kyubimon as Henry headed toward the tunnel's mouth. Henry screamed, Rika, Yuma, and just managed to lift his hand in time to catch the throne's cell phone. Call Gogglehead, he might know Naruto's location, exclaimed Rika. Rika only needed to make sure Henry knew to ask, not that Takato was all that useless. She had to act quickly because they were speeding down the tunnel. Speaking of. Rika handed the girl a card and said, Yuma, use this. Yuma looked at the little card with the label, Hyperspeed, and asked, what do I do with it? Rika answered, swipe it in your D-arc. As Kyubimon gained speed, the girl followed instructions while a light shone from her D-arc. That's more like it. Kyubimon burst out. The woman on the other end of the phone said, hello, Mitsuki residence. As Henry ran with Terriermon on his shoulder, he stammered, Takato? The woman questioned incredulously, is this about me changing my long-distance carrier? By saying, I'm sorry, this is Henry. Henry tried to talk her out of it. Oh, hi Henry, Takato is over at the park with some classmates. I could take a message for him if you want. As he turned a corner and ascended a flight of stairs to a tiny overpass, Henry said, no thanks. I gotta go. Merry Christmas. Henry hung up quickly and kept running. Takato's the one who was all fired up to patrol today, and now I can't even find him, he murmured. The most intense hide-and-seek player ever set up a trap for the boy, who was hanging upside down from a tree. Knowing Takato, he's probably off finding big foot tracks or something. Surprisingly, there had been no casualties despite the white snake traveling through the city's streets and reaching another station with another train. The fact that all the trains were attacked while parked in a station most likely contributed to that. Curling around the station's numerous pillars, the snake glared down at its cocky opponent. Kyubimon asked her riders, who had already disembarked, maybe you'd like to pick on me now that you have no more innocent people to terrorize? Fox Flame Dragon. She cried as she leapt into the air, covered in a deep red flame. The snake was overtaken by the flaming red dragon, which snarled and tore forth. The beast's smoke billowed and there was a nefarious hiss. When the smoke cleared and the snake's form appeared undamaged, Kyubimon grinned triumphantly. With a low, menacing laugh, the beast hissed and lunged forward, snatching the fox by the waist with its tail. Kyubimon exclaimed, Gaw, as it was firmly squeezed. Kyubimon! Exclaimed Yuma. Digivolution as it released emerald green energy from its Gatling arms. The newly evolved bunny exclaimed, Gargalazer, put her down. The snake hissed, ignoring the attack, and swatted the bunny away with the fox acting as a flail. Where's Takato? Exclaimed Rika. Henry replied, I couldn't find him. Impmon sneered from his perch on the steps leading outside the station, yeah, some team. Rika, meanwhile, had at last received a read on the Digimon. Rika exclaimed, Sandiramon, ultimate level. They were finally able to see the snake's purple underbelly when it reared its head after dropping Kyubimon. It was colored the same shade as its hood, and there was a green vest-like section with gold swirls on either side close to where the head and body met. It hissed, treasure lance, and spat out a long, green, shafted lance with protuberances that resembled axe blades and a spear-like tip. It used its tail to grasp the weapon and stab the two fallen Digimon, who instantly jumped away from the impact. Henry yelled, We can't beat it like this, it's too powerful. The concrete where Kyubimon used to stand was crushed by the snake's spear as it struck out again. Yuma let out a gasp. The situation did not appear promising. Rika reassured Yuma, saying, "We can do this." As the beast coiled again, its red pupilless eyes searching for its next victim, Yuma nodded. Shujti, Takato called out, "Okay, we give in," as he lay beside his exhausted classmates. Kazu exclaimed, "There is no way we could ever find that guy." Kenta said, "He's like some kind of ninja." Naruto said, "Not some kind," emerging from behind the startled group. "The best kind." Guilman said, "Takato, Naruman," his eyes darting around, "I smell a Digimon." Naruto scowled, wishing he had Guilman's ability to scent out Digimon. Guilman could pursue them if necessary, but he could definitely sense their presence when they were aiming for him or when they were bioemerging. The sarcastic voice said, "So you're just now noticing?" Impmon was back up in the tree, making stern gestures toward the ground. "They're down there fighting for their very lives, and you're up here playing hide and seek." "What?" inquired Takato. As Guilman kept sniffing, Naruto had collapsed to the ground and placed an ear to it. After some time, Guilman remarked, "He's right. I can smell them, in the tunnels below." Naruto guessed that it was the subway tunnels. "Move to the head of the class, genius." Impmon sneered. "Know that you wasted time overworking your pathetic brain. Your friends are becoming snake food. Bravo, nice work." "You mean there's an actual Digimon fight going on in the subway systems?" Kazu responded. "I don't know about you dweebs, but this I gotta see." "Let's go. What are we waiting for?" exclaimed Kenta. Jerry said, "Common Takato, can we come with you?" "Definitely not," exclaimed Takato. "This isn't a game, this is for real, and it's dangerous. You guys could get killed." Takato's right. Naruto nodded in agreement. As he watched the goggled-headed boy draw a card and scan it, his admiration for him increased slightly. Digimodify. Digman's drill activate. Guilman started digging into the subway tunnels with his newly developed drills on his formerly clawed hands. Takato waved once more before descending, Naruto right on his tail, amid the amazed expressions of his classmates. Kyubimon roared, "Fox Flame Dragon," and flung another roaring flame at the white snake. As the flames subsided, the beast simply laughed again, but this time, a shout of "Bunny Pummel" cut through his laughter. The snake's chin was struck by Gargamon's emerald glow Gatling arm. With a smirk on its scaly lips, the beast appeared to flinch before lowering its head. Gargomon sighed, "That didn't have quite the effect I thought it would." From his perch atop a light post, Calamon muttered, "He's smiling. I have a bad feeling about this." Henry asked, "What are we gonna do, guys?" Kyubimon said, "Gargomon, any bright ideas?" "Let's not do that again," he said, "just one." Rika yelled, "Will we have to do something?" "Watch out," Yuma said. "He's getting ready for something." Yes, he was. Sandiramon had thrown its head back and started to take a deep breath. It hissed, sickly green particles of power focusing inside its mouth. Sandiramon appeared to be about to strike as the ceiling above him collapsed as the glow grew brighter still. The beast lost focus after a couple of dozen pounds of concrete struck its head. Guilman and Takato landed next to their friends after bouncing off the snake's head with the concrete. Feeling a little exhausted from the fall, he and Guilman got up and said, "Sorry, I'm late." Rika remarked, "Look who finally decided to show up. Have you seen Naruto?" From atop the white snake's head, Naruto uttered, "Right here." "Really, why did it have to be a snake?" The snake bucked beneath him, and if he hadn't jumped to Rika's side, he would have been caught in its jaws as it now closed in on his former location. Naruto screamed, "Not this time, you scaly bastard." Rika said dismissively, drawing a card next to Takato, "Enough talk. Let's take this thing down." Digivolution. Guilman digivolved to Growlman. Now wearing his battle cloak with the words, "Apprentice Sage," printed on it, Naruto was dressed in his usual swirl of leaves. The four champions gazed down at the beast, their companion's presence erasing any fear they may have had. Sandiramon was astute enough to recognize when he was being beaten, though this confined area hindered his best attacks, making it possible for four champion-level Digimon to outshine him. It would be better to quickly flee and then fall before he could start frightening the humans. The white snake coiled up and then shot off down a tunnel at high speed, hissing in rage. But he was soon followed by the others, who managed to keep the creature in sight by using their modify cards. However, Naruto's inherent speed meant he didn't need one. Since Sandiramon appeared to be giving his all in an attempt to escape, it was all they could do to maintain that speed. Behind his speed, Amplified partner Gargomon, Henry exclaimed, and just when I thought things couldn't get any worse. From behind Naruto, Rika called out, "What do you mean?" "The train," exclaimed Yuma. They both fixed their gaze on the tiny red lights above. A train was approaching, and beneath them the third rail blazed to life, sparking with electricity here and there. In reality, each light was a tiny sign that read, "Danger, clear tracks." "This is bad," suspected Takato. Yuma exclaimed, "They will not be able to get out of the train. It's going to evaporate it like the others. That means all those people are gonna die if we don't do something," said Henry. For a few moments, they pushed forward in tense silence, each of them praying for the best chance of arriving in time. At this rate, things were going to get messy, Naruto growled. People were unaware of Digimon as it was. Indeed, there were Hypnos, but it appeared that neither the city nor the rest of the government knew anything about them. In addition to causing deaths, the destruction of this train would unleash a horrible chain of events. People would be looking for answers, but there wouldn't be many. "We have to stop it before it gets to the train," Naruto stated. "On top of that, we can't allow any of you to be seen, not yet." "Then what do? We are barely keeping up with this thing as it is," said Henry. Gargomon responded, "We still have our ranged attacks." "Yes," Kyubimon replied. "But the time it takes to use them would put us too far behind, and if the attack fails." When Rika concluded, "Then it's over," after a little while, they could make out the outlines of a faint light encircling Sandiramon. It appeared that they only had minuets left because they had been moving straight ahead the entire time. Takato remarked, "I think I have an idea." "Leap," Naruto said, "we're all ears." Takato asked, "Naruto, you haven't used Modify card yet, right?" "Yeah," Naruto said. "But I don't think I could take this thing on my own, not without digivolving." Takato stated, "That doesn't matter. You also mentioned something about a transformation technique once, right?" Takato grinned at Naruto's nod, reminding Naruto of the reason he liked the young boy so much. Being a prankster at heart, he could only grin as Takato explained his scheme. "Takato, you're a genius." In front of the white snake, Naruto stood. He had changed into his typical Zoro outfit and made every effort to appear resilient in the face of evil. The train screeched to a stop behind him. They had applied the brakes because they could see the creature approaching. The train would have been destroyed if Naruto hadn't been present. Naruto was in the ideal position for their little show after using the hyperspeed modify card quickly. Naruto noticed a few young children pressed against the car's glass as the crowd gathered in front of it. He grinned. A hero would appear before their very eyes on this auspicious day. With his hands in a ram sign, Naruto lifted his right hand to the sky and pointed both fingers at it while grinning. "Shinobi change!" Naruto yelled, bringing his arms to his sides and launching them forward. "Ninpu!" After the smoke cleared from around his body, he was standing in his battle cloak, but this time he had his Anbu mask securely fastened. He hoped to put on a good show after noticing how many people were pulling out cell phones on the train. When Naruto said, "The wind howls," he assumed a position that was strikingly similar to that of his teacher Jiraiya. "The sky rages," Naruto exclaimed, spinning on his heel and adopting an exaggerated fighting stance. After saying, "Air Ninja, Hurricane Red," Naruto stood tall and straight, his cloak flapping behind him. Sandiramon did not know how to react to the strange Digimon in front of him and its absurd antics. He would have assumed he was some crazy person if he hadn't witnessed him digivolve. Sandiramon took this as a positive sign and prepared to face the pest in front of him after the others appeared to give up their pursuit for whatever reason. "Get ready to defeat this abominable creature," Naruto yelled. The idea of a mere champion defeating Sandiramon, a diva, almost made him laugh. "I call upon the three beasts to punish you, now, 3 things. Fox." For a brief moment, Sandiramon was uneasy as the Kyubimon from earlier leapt off the wall next to his head. A ruby fire trail behind it. Rabbit. Gargomon used his head as a springboard to land next to Naruto, sending another shiver down the snake's excessively long spine. Dragon. As Growlman's translucent wings soared overhead and landed next to the red-clad ninja, Sandiramon immediately realized his error. He ought to have destroyed the Digimon and the train in equal measure, but he enjoys playing with his victims, which would have been his undoing. He could only fight his way forward in this narrow tunnel. There was no way out. Naruto yelled, "Ninja art! Punishment of the 3 beasts!" Growlman, Gargomon, and Kyubimon all launched their strongest attacks at once. A ruby-colored dragon that coiled around the collision of flames managed to control and direct Growlman's rich orange flames. The dragon's body was dotted with emerald sparks that gave the appearance of scales. In response, Sandiramon yelled, "Venom Axe," and launched a bigger spear than before. It had a deep purple coating on its blade. The spear was ripped apart after a brief struggle between the two attacks, and the flames continued to dance. Sandiramon's skin was scorched by the flames, and all he could do was scream in pain. But it wasn't finished yet. "No!" exclaimed Sandiramon. "I am one of the 12 devas sent by the Sovereign One. I cannot fall here." Rasengan! Naruto yelled as he struck the beast's charred forehead with the spiraling ball of destruction. The creature was launched into the tunnel with a flash, vanishing into data as it went. After finishing their task, the Digimon vanished into the darkness, and Naruto turned to face the passengers on the train. The children's faces were filled with awe, and he could see the adults watching in disbelief. Behind his mask, Naruto smiled and said, "Don't worry, you're all safe now." When the group eventually returned to the park via the tunnel Guilman had dug, there was a stunned silence. Naturally, the always delightful Kazu broke it. He pointed and said, "Amazing, you guys are all real." Jerry said, "I must be dreaming." "Nope," said Takato. "That there is Gargomon and Henry, the fox is Kyubimon and the girl is Yuma." Rika remarked, "You already met Gogglehead and Dino Boy." Takato added, "And this is Rika, Naruto's girlfriend." "Hey," the girl said angrily, "you can't just go around." Naruto put a soothing hand on her shoulder and reassured her, saying, "Don't worry, I covered it with him earlier." "I don't think we should be out here in the open with the Digimon like this," Kenta said. "What do you think, Takato?" Takato grinned and said, "You're right. Come on guys, to the hideout." Rika laughed. "You mean the shed?" As the others fled ahead, Takato adamantly stated, "It's a hideout." With a sigh, Rika said, "I think we'll just head home." With a wave and a shrug, Takato departed after his companions. Rika said, "All right, let's go." Yuma had been quite quiet on Kyubimon's back, so they were surprised when her voice interrupted, Would it be all right if..." Naruto gave the girl a smile. "Just take a deep breath and ask Yuma." After doing so, the girl turned back to face the older, looking blonde. "Could you carry me home?" Uncertain of what he would say, she looked away and spoke in a tiny voice. She had been amazed when she first saw him digivolve and had questioned his actual age. His generosity with her new possessions had taken her by surprise. The fact that he had gone to the trouble of earning money in order for her to live with the Makino family had surprised her even more. He had offered her a house in the first place, and she was absolutely shocked. That was it. He had made her an offer of a house. He had given her everything she required for a comfortable life without expecting anything in return. He had fulfilled all of her wishes that she had hoped her parents would fulfill in the future. As she gained more knowledge about him, she would discover that the obstacle preventing her from recognizing him as a father would soon be removed. She was much more at ease with him than the Makino women, and it had already broken aesthetically. A powerful pair of hands grabbed her beneath her arms, interrupting her thoughts. When he turned her onto his back, she put her arms around his neck and gasped. Gazing out over the world from a new, elevated perspective, she grinned into his shoulder. He's not a father to her yet, but perhaps he will be one day. All she could do was hope.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.